On today's episode of the Grab Matters podcast, we sit down with a very special guest, Kyle Alberts. Kyle Alberts is a former professional wakeboarder from Nebraska. We sit down with him and talk about his decision to move from Nebraska to Florida, what that's like, what it was like living with Webb back in the day, driving the intro for the movie Relentless from Alliance, winching for the Step Up Productions at a bunch of boat shows and what that part of his life was like. We also talk about why he felt as though he maybe didn't take that next step as a pro rider in his career and kind of what the reasons behind that were. Talk about a bunch more with Kyle. It was a great conversation with him. Do want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon members. Without your guys' membership, this podcast would not be possible. So thanks a ton to everyone who's joined in on that Patreon and will join on that Patreon. It means a ton to me. So without further ado, hope you guys enjoy this episode with Kyle Alberts.
I approve waterboarding.
They're talking about wakeboarding. The thing about wakeboarding, every trick is an invert.
Backside,
air railing.
a new dimension.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Grab Matters podcast. Today we welcome on a very special guest, Kyle Alberts. How's it going?
It's great, man. I appreciate being here.
I appreciate you coming out, man. Yeah, dude. Means a lot. So we were just talking before the pod, and you were just getting into a great story with JD, and there were a couple other people involved about getting almost helicoptered out of a situation. So I feel like let's just dive right into it. Let's dive into that story.
I don't know what year it was, and I find it weird that people that come on here know dates.
A lot of people say that.
It's like, dude, I have no idea what year this was.
That's fair, dude. You don't mentally mark that in your remembrance story.
Well, yeah, so it was like the G23 had just come out. It was a white and blue boat. Watson had a black and green one, if I remember right. Those were like the two boats at Masters. Right after Masters, I had the Step Up bus at the time. We all get in this bus. It's like Phil Sovin, Big Spence, JD, myself, Rob Coram. This is Rob Coram's mom's lake house we're going to on Lake Mitchell. And we're like driving these sketchy gravel roads, and we get to like a dead end basically. And we're in, obviously the boat's 25 feet with the trailer, and then the bus is another 40 feet. And we drove like 2 miles to get to this point, and then it's just dead ends into a house. And we're like Austin powering, trying to get like and it's like, it's not flat, there's like an uphill to it. So it's like, we can't really unhook the boat. And even if we could, you can't back the bus
to get
out.
Around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't like get the bus out. So it's like, oh dude, it's like late. And we're just trying to find the boat ramp. This is, we used to go there and just film for like a week in between the Masters and at Ackworth tour stop.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're just stuck and it's late, and some guy like hears the butt, cause like the air brakes are going off the whole time. So finally this guy comes out with like a front end loader tractor and is like, I got you guys. I'll help you. Like, so we disconnected the trailer. I got the bus turned around. He backs up to the boat and turns us the right way and gets us out of this point. But it's like, if it wasn't for this good Samaritan that came out, helped us turn this whole thing around, I don't know what we would have done.
G would still be there.
It might still, like one of the first ones to ever, like the Masters was pulled by that boat that year.
Okay, so you just picked it right up from the event.
Yeah. And then it went to, like JD had that boat until his G was done.
Okay.
At the time. And that it had like the supercharged engine in it. Like the boat was gangster. And like the first trick on Lake Mitchell, JD did switch toe 10 off the wake.
First tee?
First trick.
Wow.
First trick. And it just like sent the whole trip like the right way.
Yeah.
It was just like, dude, we're here. Okay. We're here to wakeboard.
Yeah.
We get it. Like, we're ready. And yeah, if it wasn't for that good Samaritan with his kabuto, that boat
yanked you right out of there.
That bus and that boat might still be there.
Love it. I love that. That's a great way to get this thing started. I usually start off with a couple of quick questions. Wake pants, yes or no?
Dude, if you want to wear wake pants, I'm all about it. Like, this is coming from a dude that was wearing basketball shorts the tail end of my wakeboarding life. Like, I was just wearing basketball shorts at that point. So, if you want to wear wake pants, I ain't going to judge it.
Okay.
Yeah, rock it.
You're not going to be rocking them yourself, though. You can say no.
I can't say no, though, because I could see there being a world where maybe I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I like it.
That day hasn't been documented yet. I want that to be known.
You're still young. You got a lot of wakeboarding that could be done in wake pants ahead of you.
I would have to get back on a wakeboard for that.
We'll talk about that a little bit. Favorite grab?
I was worried about this question because it can go so many ways. Like the whole melon method grab, to me, it's like kind of the easy way out, but it also makes tricks so much harder.
Like the easy answer, you mean?
Yeah, it's the easy answer. Like the melon method, you know how.
No one's ever going to dog you for saying that's your favorite grab.
Correct. But then there's like for me, tail grab would have been my immediate answer.
Okay.
But then wakeboarding was like starting to get on my way out. It was starting to get to the point that was like method tantrum to blinds or melon tantrum to blinds, however you want to call it, were like becoming a thing. And then people were doing melon roll to blinds, and it opened up the door to make quote unquote easier tricks more difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's a 2-part answer, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like to me, tail grab roll to blind was one of my favorite tricks to do. Shout out Rhett Watley for that one.
Tail roll to blind. I mean, it's a staple. That's such a good looking trick.
Yeah, Rhett was one of the first guys I can think of doing it. Back in my junior men days, like Rhett was doing tail grab roll to blinds, and I was like, dude, I have to learn how to do that immediately, like tomorrow. And that's what I did.
Okay. So
yeah, towards the end of my career, like the method tantrum of blinds and like doing those unorthodox grabs during tricks that you wouldn't normally see them, I was like, dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's where the Pete, I mean, that's one of them where it's like, you just don't see Pete's getting grabbed.
Yeah, that was stalefish.
Yeah. That's like a non-standard grab for that trick.
Correct. And that was getting popular towards the end. And then, I mean, like, I remember watching videos growing up of Danny, I don't remember what video it was, but Danny Harf doing stalefish toe side roll to reverts. And I was like, dude, that's sick.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until like, flash forward 12 years and I was like, oh, the wakes are big. Danny was doing that off the double up a lot. I think it was in incomplete. Maybe. I'm really bad with all that. But whatever video
if it was, I'll put it in.
Yeah, whatever video it was of him doing stalefish toe side roll to reverts, that was like an unorthodox grab for that trick. And I was like, dude, I like the way it looks. It's weird. It's cool. He made it look good. I was like, oh. So I started doing them towards the end. And I was like, oh, the wakes were big enough. I was like, dude, I think I can go Pete on this. I was like, yeah, let's try that. And then at the very end, I was trying stale Pete 5s off the double up, just getting smoked. But yeah, like, I had no business trying that at the time that I was still wakeboarding. But
hey, man, why not?
I was going for it.
So speaking of grabs, I was going to get into this a little bit later, but there's a video called Alabama Getaways, and it's kind of several different parts of you, JD, a couple other riders. Mm-hmm. I think Scott Stewart's in that too. Mm-hmm. And you do a method at the beginning, just a straight up method, great method. And then like halfway through the video, you do a method to blind or method back one. And that stood out to me a lot because this is kind of nerdy for like grabs and shit, but like I love when someone does a trick And I think that they're just going to continue with my perception of that trick was at the takeoff. So the second time you did the method, I was like, they're putting a second method in? Like,
Yeah.
you already put a method in. And then when you're like halfway over the wake, it's like, oh, nope, going to blind.
Yeah, just like fall into it.
You just fall into it. It's like,
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's a fun trick.
It's a good looking trick too.
Yeah.
It's a good looking trick.
Like, to circle back, like, I could also argue that nuclear is a cool grab. And like, that's not going to be received well. But like, I used to like messing around, like warming up, I guess. I would do like these like little nuclear glide to blinds.
Yeah.
Like just wake to wake, nothing crazy. But I don't know, just like, you know, you do your, you know, your cab 180, you know, whatever, just like warming up. And I would do these like weird nuclear glide to blinds. And it was just like a trick that
It's to feel good.
yeah, it was just like, dude, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
Like, I know it, the general population is going to be like, dude, that's whack. But I was like, I don't know, it feels cool.
It feels cool. I like it, man.
Yeah, so I'm going to do
This is
it.
my set, dude.
Right. Right.
All right. I think that was some good grab talk. I think we talk early days. So where'd you grow up? Kind of run through the early days of Kyle Alberts, Nebraska.
Yeah, I grew up on a lake, we'll call it 45 minutes south of Omaha, called Beaver Lake. And, you know, my parents had bought a lake house, and my grandparents had already lived at the lake. And we had bought, or my parents had bought just a house on the lake. And this was like 96,
Okay.
95, 96. I was young. I was a kid. I was like 7 or 8. And we had got a tri-hole cobalt, like a beater.
Yeah.
We call it a beater these days. But it was like our first boat, and it was awesome, and it was cool, and it was like introducing us to the lake. And, you know, my parents didn't have any water ski. My dad grew up in Huntington Beach, California, so he was a surfer. But I wouldn't say that he had any lake knowledge or, you know, water ski background, wakeboard background like that.
Boating's a whole kind of different animal.
That was
for
a
sure.
whole different thing.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, this was his closest thing to it. Yeah, we had a Cobalt, and my parents had bought me like a 38 off wakeboard with sandal bindings, directional. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Got hooked on it. First, I tried kneeboarding, got stuck upside down.
Because you're strapped in too tight.
Yeah, strapped in too tight.
That's very underrated scary moments on the water. Kneeboard strapped in too tight.
100%. Got stuck upside down. Dad jumped in. You know, obviously, like, boat turns around super fast. Like, oh, panic, panic, panic. Dad jumps in with, like, his StarTAC cell phone and pager. And then the minute he hits the water, I get out. And I don't think I've kneeboarded since, probably, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I've just been a straight tube and wakeboard kid ever since. Oh, yeah, I didn't grow up water skiing. I didn't get into any of that. I mean, I've learned how to water ski
Sure.
prior or after that, but yeah, no, it was just straight wakeboarding.
Okay. So I'm curious on the season of Nebraska, because that's like a Midwest-ish type state. So like, how long are you guys wakeboarding, tubing, all that shit on the lake for?
Once I got serious, like, or not even serious, but like, just like fell in love with wakeboarding, it was like, yo, we're pushing it. You know, it was like maybe like late March, you're wearing like the dry suits that, you know, bubble up, like have air, you know, and it's just like, you're just like stuck out there like a Michelin man waiting for the boat to turn around or like even just to go. You're just like, hurry up. So yeah, I was like probably late March, and then yeah, like you're looking at like late September.
Okay.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays maybe you're like early October.
You get a nice wetsuit on.
Yeah, like nowadays that you have like the technology to like kind of go that, you push the boundaries a little bit. I mean, you could be out there, realistically, you could be out there dodging icebergs.
Sounds kinda fun.
Late February nowadays. Like if you
So it doesn't fully freeze over usually, but
it does, but like the lake that I grew up on, like last time I was home, there's so many people with bubblers now that fish. Like they don't want to do like the
Really?
whole ice fishing thing,
Yeah.
so they just have like bubblers outside their dock. But now there's so many of those bubblers that like it's hard for the lake to like fully
Interesting.
freeze over. Like the middle passes will be frozen.
yeah.
But like you could ride the shores like pretty much all year if you're crazy.
Okay.
It's like 0 degrees out. Like the boat might not work. I don't know if anyone's tested that, to be honest. But.
Probably. I don't think anybody's that serious anymore.
Right.
So yeah, you were talking about getting serious. When did you start, getting serious, fall in love with wakeboarding? And you don't have to have a specific age, but did you guys get a new boat at any point? Like, what's that look like?
Our boat after like the initial whole cobalt, like 16-footer, maybe 18. I don't know. I was a kid. It seemed huge. We got a Taiga 20i.
Okay, so you went full on water sports boat.
Yeah, like full. I mean, I
Towboat.
guess. Yeah, towboat.
Yeah.
I guess. Like, I mean, it was a great ski boat. Like wakeboarding. It's. I think about it now. That Taiga 20i was maybe I learned so many tricks behind that boat, and like the wake was really good to me back then. Like just putting like, I don't know, it might have been like a 300-pound fat sack in the back, and then like maybe another 300 in the front, and it was just like, oh my god, this wake's insane. But I was also like 5 foot tall,
Yeah.
so maybe it was bigger than it actually was. Or maybe I thought it was bigger than it actually was, but I learned so many tricks behind that Taiga. And that like kind of kick-started all. And like the Taiga dealership in Omaha at the time was called Bonson's. And they were like really big into like pushing the sport of wakeboarding. Like the guys that ran the pro shop, they were like in it.
Yeah.
They were like in the scene. And at the same time, Ronnie Ramiro was starting Wakeboard Nebraska. So he had a Taiga 21V, which was just like, whoa, new ball game. Like this wake's insane.
This thing's built to wakeboard.
Yeah. At the time it was like, yo, this thing's something that I had never ridden behind. And I remember like going out the first time, like, dude, again, I'm like a kid. Like my mom dropped me off with Ronnie. And at the time, like my dad had just passed away. So we were kind of I didn't really have a boat driver anymore. Like my dad always drove the boat. So Ronnie kind of like stepped in at the same, and like, dude, I'm a kid. Like I know like 3 inverts, and I remember the first day I landed at 360, it was behind his 21V. And like, I had never tried it before. And like him and a couple guys were on the boat and they were like, egging me on kind of, and dude, I'm like 10 years old.
Oh, you're that young.
Yeah. I'm like,
Okay.
I'm a kid.
Yeah.
It was on Carter Lake. I'll never forget it. Carter Lake's like the lake right by the Omaha airport, public lake. And yeah, my mom like dropped me off with them, or somehow I ended up on the boat with them. I don't know why at the time, but yeah, they were like egging me on. I knew like tantrum, scarecrow, and front roll. Like we'll call it those 3.
Yeah.
It might have been a back roll.
The classic 3 or 4.
Yeah, like you're right. The easy one, the easier quote unquote ones. And then they were like egging me on. They're like, "Oh, flips, you can't spin." Like any 30-year-old would say to a 10-year-old. Like so I tried it and like didn't get the handle past the first try, but I like landed on the board and rode away until I sank, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I can do this." And yeah, like I ended up doing like a 1-wake 360, and it was just like all the old guys in the boat were pumped. I mean, they're not old, but like at the time for me, they were old.
Yeah.
Shout out Ronnie. He's old now, but yeah, like I guess that was like having like that self or like that gratification of like doing something that was like for me hard. And like Ronnie could do 3s, Sean Keeler could do, like everyone in the boat could spin and flip. And it was like I was the only kid in the boat that couldn't spin. So they were just egging me on, and it was awesome. Like, and from there, like, I guess maybe I found my drive a little bit through them.
Okay.
And then, I mean, Ronnie ended up being like a father figure in my life. And, you know, after every set, I'd call Ronnie. It's like, this is what happened today. And it was cool. Like we had that relationship, and we still have that relationship, but like, obviously I don't wakeboard 3 times a day anymore. So, you know, but we talk, and yeah, after that, it was like kind of go to the races. And then Ronnie got a lake house at this, which is one of the best wakeboard lakes I've ever been on. Like, I know Travis says you're in the wrong spot, and like, he ain't wrong. But there is a lake in Nebraska called Woodcliff, and it is like a racetrack, so to speak, with an island in the middle. And no matter where you're at on the lake, there's like 5 good passes, no matter what, always. It's a little shallow, I'll give it that, but it's a racetrack. All the boats go dimensional. Like, you can't go whichever way you want. Like, everything goes counterclockwise. And that's how it is. And it's sand on both sides. There's no seawalls. So it's just like everything dissipates and it's gone. And like, Woodcliff's pretty cool.
It's a pretty good spot.
It's a pretty good spot. It's not Ride the Spot, and it's not, or it's not the boarding school.
Yeah.
Ride the Spot was earlier, but it's not the boarding school. I mean, the boarding school has it pretty good, but Woodcliff,
she's up there.
It just has winter. And you can't.
That's a big one.
Yeah. And they drain the lake there.
Every year?
Yeah, they like drain it. It's great. Like, I don't know. I don't really know how it works. Like, they do it with Beaver Lake, like that lake that I grew up on too. Like, they drain it to a certain point because they're all like dammed lakes. So they like drain it a little bit. So maybe it's so the shore stations don't get messed up, like by the ice moving.
Yeah, because I mean, in Michigan, like, we got to pull them all out. Everyone pulls it out on their shore.
Right.
But if you were to drain the lake a little bit,
that's how it was in Nebraska. Like, they would drain the lake like 10 feet. I mean, the lake I grew up on was like, the deepest point was like 100 feet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe that's why they did that. Maybe I just figured out why.
That's really convenient for everybody that lives on the lake.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because like, no one ever pulled their shore stations off.
Yeah, they just take the boat out and
yeah, they would like or a lot of the dealerships at the time would just come and winterize your boat on the shore station.
Really?
And it would sit there all winter.
And they just wrap it or whatever, and then
it would like come with like whenever you buy like a brand new boat, it comes in like the crazy white stuff, but they would save it for you and then put it back on in the winter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's why they were doing that. So you didn't have to pull your
that would make sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk. I want to talk a little bit more about wakeboard Nebraska, because I was talking to Ronnie a little bit, and he was just, you mentioned Woodcliff Lake, but what was wakeboard Nebraska? You know, what was the scene like really throughout like all those years in Nebraska?
Yeah, I mean without wakeboard Nebraska, like I wouldn't have ever probably pursued wakeboarding on like a main stage level in my life. But Ronnie would set up contests like in Fremont. There was a couple lakes out there, like Lake 20 was one of them. It's like in the state parks. So, you know, any given day, like you could have a wakeboard contest and there'd be boats everywhere. Like, but yeah, Ronnie and this dude, Sean Keeler, that lived on Beaver Lake, like they kind of started it. I have no idea what year. Early. Probably like 2002.
Okay.
If I had to throw a number out there. But yeah, Ronnie and Sean, they would do, there was this contest called Midwest Coast Summerfest that would be in Okoboji, Iowa. That we would all go to. And then from there, like, I think Ronnie and Sean just like, I mean, I feel like it was probably more Ronnie because Ronnie stuck with it the longest. I mean, Sean had like, at the time, Sean had like a family and had some other things, you know, just like life.
Yeah.
You know, so, and not to say Ronnie didn't, but Ronnie's like passion of wakeboarding was just like bar none. Yeah. And it still is bar none. Like Ronnie talks about stuff nowadays that I've never even heard of. And I'm like, yeah, I'm way out of it.
He's still in it.
Yeah, he's like fully committed to it. And like much respect to that, because
I love that.
Not everyone has that in them after 25, 30 years, you know.
Yeah.
Like we're coming up on 30 years.
Fire can only burn so bright for so long.
Right. Before, especially like, he's got kids in college and he's just been there always. But yeah, he was running contests and, I started off in like the intermediate division, I remember. And like there at the time, like outlaw was still like the number one, like where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
And there was a couple dudes there, that I was wakeboarding with, with Ronnie. Like, I mean, it was like a tight knit community in Nebraska, but there was some dudes that came down from like South Dakota, some guys that came in from Iowa, and then Ronnie would kind of start putting it in like times that pros would show up. It was like, so now these pros are coming to like Andrew was one of them, and Parks would show up, like through the dealer, through Bonson's, and then through Nebraska Water Sports later with Mastercraft and Hyperlight. But me and this kid, Ben Bezos, like we were like the two guys that, I don't know, we were like similar in age. He's a little bit older than I am, but we were like similar in age enough where we were like pushing each other. We were both kind of at the same level. And Ben was better than, I mean, it was a struggle to beat Ben always. Yeah. Like growing up, like it wasn't until like I got later on in my wakeboarding time that it became it became a point where it was like kind of unfair for me to ride in these. Cause I was like, at that time I was like on junior men and like riding on the junior men tour and then coming still, cause I was living at home in Nebraska for most of it. And then I ride junior men all year and then come back and ride, the 2 contests that Ronnie would throw a year. And it was like, everyone was like, dude, like,
where's my money?
Yeah. It's like, yo, you don't need to be doing these things. But if it wasn't for Ronnie and Wakeboard Nebraska as a whole, like it would have never like pushed me enough to do it.
Yeah.
Or like Wakeboard Nebraska was like the slingshot I needed to go start riding some of these junior men tours, like contests back in the day. Like this is like, I don't know, probably like 04, 05, where, junior men was still like Bob was a kid. Like he was still in boys at that point. So like I didn't have to ride. I never really rode against Bob, like because Bob was younger than I was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until pro men that I rode against Bob because we were just like age gapped out.
Bob Sobin for those who are.
Yeah. Bob Sobin.
All in Bob Sobin.
But yeah, I remember like even like Harley being a little kid. Like the first couple years I was in junior men. But yeah, at the same time, it was like Wakeboard Nebraska was still like pretty heavy doing like local contests and like bringing like good pros in. Like,
yeah.
Like I remember Andrew Atkinson coming, and everyone was just like, the All-Americans coming to your lake. Are you gonna come? Are you gonna come to clinic day with Andrew Atkinson? But like Darren was coming, Jonathan Nadowski would come, Rathy came. At the time when Rathy came, like I was Rathy and I knew each other. Some crazy stories with Rathy in Nebraska, and the rep Ben Sims at the time. But yeah, there was just like Ronnie was super involved in getting pro wakeboarders to come to Nebraska, to come ride on this lake and get just the community behind it. Especially Woodcliffe's like it's a different community, man. Like it's nothing that I've really experienced anywhere in my travels, like in the US.
How so?
Like everybody wakeboards on this lake. I mean, there's a lot of dudes that slalom ski too. Like there's a couple of the core guys from the Wakeboard Nebraska group. Like they don't wakeboard anymore. They slalom. Like that's just what they do now. They've I don't want to say aged out of wakeboarding, but their passion has just like become water skiing again.
Yeah.
And these are dudes that grew up on Woodcliff. So like they've been around water skiing their entire life, and wakeboarding came out. It was like awesome to them. And, they're just ready to be water skiers again. Also, like no one has $200,000 boats anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, Woodcliff is just a different community than, I'm sure it's paved now. I haven't been there for years, but, it was dirt roads and everyone had 4-wheelers and side-by-sides, and that's how you got around. And everybody was just always on. It was very lake-driven. So, there's, kids tubing, but the same time you see these kids tubing, the next pass they're wakeboarding. So it's like a 3-mile loop.
I was gonna say, how big is this unit?
Yeah, but we'll call it probably 3 miles.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's a good loop.
Yeah.
But yeah, they one passed their water skiing, one passed their tubing, one passed their kneeboarding, one passed their wakeboarding. And that's just how it was growing up, and everybody was about it. And then there's also the 60-plus-year-olds that are just cruising on their pontoon. But it was so lake driven. On the island, they had these big sand dunes. So it was just everyone would pull their boat up, and it was kind of almost like Bird Island or Disappearing Island, and where it's just kind of the party side. I mean, I was a kid, so I wasn't really partying on that side of it. But yeah, it was just
this place sounds like a blast, dude.
Yeah, it's just this is where, I think more people now live there full time. When I was growing up, it was people's lake houses.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit more full time now. So
Yeah.
it was this is everyone's vacation spot. And it was just very lake oriented, always. The jet skis were just ripping nonstop. But yeah, Woodcliff has a special place in my heart, no doubt.
Yeah. It sounds like an unreal spot to to be at.
It's amazing.
Okay. So before we move into kind of moving to Florida and taking wakeboarding even a little bit more seriously, I'm wondering, if you were into any other sports growing up.
Yeah, I was pretty heavily into basketball.
You were recruited pretty highly, I heard. Is that right?
Highly's subjective.
You were recruited.
Yeah, I had some lower end schools talk to me.
Yeah.
A couple of the kids I went to high school with, and then just I was on a traveling team, I guess, growing up, or a select team.
Yeah.
Basketball wise, and a couple of my good core group of friends from high school that they went and played for some D2 colleges, and I was involved in some of those conversations, but I think from the get-go, all those dudes knew that I wasn't going to go play.
Okay.
I was going to go wakeboard.
That was okay. Gotcha. But you were, if you're even in the conversation of getting recruited even to a D2 school, you're pretty good.
Yeah, I had 2 good years.
Okay.
My junior and senior year of high school, I played good ball, and I played a lot. I did a lot of open gym, where you'd travel to I grew up in a small school. There was 50 kids in my graduating class. I went to a small high school.
Okay.
But we would travel to Lincoln or Omaha and play open gym with a lot of quote unquote A1 kids. Ballers.
Yeah.
And I felt not out of place, I guess we'll say.
Okay.
Me and Josh and a couple other kids I went to high school with, we fit in.
Hold your own.
Yeah. For kids that went to a 50-kid high school or a 50-kid class high school, we played ball.
What position you play?
I mostly played 2-man. Me and this other kid, we kind of were both point guards.
Okay.
I didn't like to bring the ball up the court though. We'll say it that way.
Okay.
I was just dude, I'll throw you the ball on the inbounds, but I'm getting down court.
Yeah.
And then, I would lean on, Josh was 6'6", one of my best friends in high school. He's tall, so it's just,
Get him down the paint.
It's easy to get assists when you're throwing to a dude that's 6'6". When you're playing in a conference that kids aren't that big.
Yeah.
6'6" was there was I could think of 2 or 3 other kids that were 6'6" that we faced all year.
Yeah.
And then, you go play open gym in Omaha and it's there's point guards that are 6'4", Yeah. But I was quick. I was fast then. I'm not fast now, but
okay.
I was fast then. I could jump back then.
Really? Could you dunk?
Yeah.
You could dunk?
My freshman year, or in between my 8th grade and freshman year was the first time I dunked.
How tall are you?
5'10".
And you could dunk. That's impressive.
Yeah,
you got some hops.
My senior year, I had a 42-inch vertical. standing vert.
Jeez. So no wonder you were getting looked at a little bit.
In warm-ups, like I could underleg it if I was like super hyped. But most of the time I would like rim it off.
Man, I wish I had some basketball clips of you to throw in right now. Oh, dunking it. You got some. You gotta send those over to put in.
I have one photo, and it was they called a foul on it, so it doesn't even count. But I like blocked this kid's, I like stuck it on the backboard. He had like a fast break.
Posterize him.
And I chased him down and stuck it on the backboard. They called a foul though, so it doesn't really count.
Okay. Well, impressive nonetheless. So, I mean, I think this is a good time to talk about, you said you were clearly going to go wakeboard at, what was this, 18 years old, finishing high school. You're not going to play basketball. Yeah,
I was one of those early kids. So I graduated right when I just turned 17.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was always the youngest kid in my class.
Okay.
Just the way my birthday fell in the school year in Nebraska. So, but yeah, I was like, at the time I was like coming to Florida in the summer. I was missing a lot of summer ball to come wakeboard. Okay. I would come down with Ronnie and we'd stay at Darren's house, and ride, and going to, like, there was like a shift there. Maybe at my senior year, we were going to Darren's house, and then we were going to Sean and Travis's new house, like out on the alligator chain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was like the tail end of my high school years. So yeah, I was like missing heaps of summer ball, and that's where that's where you really make it, because like kids are going to play on those select teams.
You got to separate yourself from the rest of the people by playing a shit ton of ball, like
a ton of basketball.
Yeah.
And not only that, but like you got to play to the same competition for the whole summer. Like when you're in like the conference that I was in growing up, like you're playing other small schools. So like the selection pool of that, like sometimes it was like we had a pretty above average team my senior year for the pool that we had to pick from, and not every school was like that. There was a couple schools that were really good and we battled hard through those. But for the most part, it's like, dude, you're running over kids.
You're not getting better playing these kids because they're not pushing you.
But then you go play summer ball and it's like, yo, everyone here is, the goal is to make it to the next level.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that time playing against people like that. But for me, it was just like, dude.
It wasn't your number one.
Like, I'd rather be a lake rat than a gym rat. And that's where,
Here we are.
Yeah. I don't know if that was the best move, but
so let's talk about that age, 18, 19. You've been wakeboarding for a while. You're pretty good at this point. You got any sponsors at that time?
I was on this like Legion Hyperlight team, which was like quote unquote the feeder league, we'll call it, like the D League. At that time, like Hyperlight had their roster. And I obviously had a good relationship with Ben Sims. He was like the Midwest Hyperlight rep at the time, before he went West Coast. And Ben was super supportive from day one. And like, I was basically like on the flow program, we'll call it. Like, they were sending me boards and everything was awesome. And then Matt McDevitt from Mastercraft kind of threw me a bone at the time with the dealership. So like I was getting a free, quote unquote, free boat from the dealership. And like, I don't know looking back on it now, I have no idea how they made that paperwork work. But like they provided me with a boat for a couple years and it was awesome. And yeah, like, so yeah, I guess through Mastercraft in like a weird way. Kind of like, I guess it would be like a Legion team with Mastercraft. Like, I'm sure they did it with a bunch of athletes. I thought it was like new to me.
So you're not getting a salary from either of those brands, but you're getting a boat, which is huge, and then you're getting all the
for sure. Like sponsorship wise, like I didn't make any money.
Yeah,
like I rode in some double up contests that I did well in, made some money. But yeah, like sponsor wise, like money was never really like. I think I was like at the best, like maybe getting $750 a month, like from everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wasn't making it. Like I still had I did a lot of work with Step Up Productions, like doing the rail jam stuff. That was what I did all winter, so I could wakeboard all summer. Stacking cash, doing boat shows, and doing those types of things. But no, salary wise, pretty much non-existent.
Okay. So I think we can get into that in a little bit more detail after we kind of talk. Moving to Florida. So does that happen right after you're done with high school? Full time to Florida?
Yeah, I barely made my high school graduation.
Okay.
My mom was like, dude, you got to walk. I was like, I don't know, do I? I mean, I will, but I'd rather, So, yeah, I stuck around, but
you were 1 foot out the door.
Yeah, pretty much the day after. I moved in with Darren at Ride the Spot.
Okay.
And I was helping Darren coach and obviously getting a ride there as well, And then I was going to Clear Lake a bunch in between the days that I wasn't helping Darren, or if Darren had 2 off days where there was no students, I'd go ride with Nick Jones and Austin Hare on Clear Lake back in Robbie Carter.
Okay.
Man, dude, I just brought
Some
it.
names, bro.
Yeah, they just brought a blast from the past. I forgot about Robbie C.
So for money, you're coaching, and then on your free time, you're riding on Clear Lake as much as you can. And then also at Darren's spot
obviously
too.
I also had some family help.
Okay.
My mom was keeping me afloat. Cause I was, at that time I was 17.
Yeah, true.
I was still a kid. I was like, yeah, mom, you got to take care of me. I'm pursuing my dreams.
So yeah, speaking of pursuing your dreams, what's your goal? When you move down to Florida, is the goal to go on the pro wakeboard tour, win tour stops, and become a fully sponsored pro wakeboarder? That's the goal in mind?
That was the goal.
Okay.
Turns out I was shit at contests. But
okay. So you moved down here and you're 17. So when do you start riding pro men?
2008.
Okay.
2008 was the first year I was in pro men.
Because that was
and I did pretty well. I guess. I don't know. There was a lot of good riders in 2008.
Weren't you rookie of the year though? First year? Yeah, 2008, right?
Yeah, I got rookie of the year 2008.
Yeah.
I think I made one final that whole year. And
really?
At that time there was there was the 5 tour stops, and there was 3 weight games. Was there van? I can't remember if there was vans at that point, or if that was just when I was in junior men.
Could have been, I don't remember.
I'm bad at those years, but there was at least those 8.
Okay. Plenty.
Yeah, I feel like there was more. Because there was nationals and worlds.
Yeah. Masters.
No, I never rode masters.
You never did?
Never made it.
Oh.
Even I don't even think I made it. No, I definitely didn't ever ride at masters. I went every year and partied.
Yeah.
In the villas. But no, because I was always with JD.
Yeah, yeah.
So, JD rode masters every year probably. But yeah, I would just go up with them because his parents would get a villa and we'd golf. That's why I went.
Okay.
To golf.
Actually, I got a quick question from Derek Davis. He's wondering if you could, what would you rather have, JD's switch method or an 8-iron that gets you a birdie 8 out of 10 times?
Dude, nothing against JD's switch method, but at this point in my life, I need an 8-iron that just throws lasers.
Yeah.
Yeah, who does?
Dude, you're getting birdies 8 out of 10 times. Come on.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
I'll just always
get me within 3 feet. I'm good.
I'll always just play to that number.
Yeah,
I'll just hit an 8-iron in every time.
True,
but it's hard. That's hard. That's hard. But yeah, I would take an 8-iron.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would if you play golf.
Dude, but JD's. That's not to take away from JD's switch method.
True.
It's maybe
maybe 15 years ago, answer would have been different.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough to say. It's a good question there. So
no one does switch methods.
Correct.
Who does?
You're correct.
No one.
Yeah.
And JD had a good one.
Yeah. the bar, I'm not going to say the bar is low, but there is no bar for switch method because it's just you.
He set it pretty high.
He said, yeah. So it's like,
unfortunately, for everyone else, everyone was like, "Oh, dude."
I'd
trying
love to
this?
see someone just like give it a year of freaking
like-
practice, dude.
But there was a lot of dudes that were doing like switch methods, but they would like do a 180 after.
See, that to me, totally different.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You got to do it straight up because that's what makes
Yeah.
it hard.
Correct.
Because you got to bring all
Yeah, it's super easy to wind yourself up.
or like spin into it and then
Yeah.
like continue. Yeah. So, but that's a great question there. Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, diamond.
I think before we move on, we jump into the LF and Wheel of Questions presented by Liquid Force.
The effing wheel of questions.
Okay, let's go.
So go ahead and grab that sucker down there. Bring it on down. And so we do have some Nebraska trivia on there as well. So we'll see if that hits.
That ain't good. I've been a Floridian longer than I've been in Nebraska.
So I was going to put Nebraska trivia and Florida trivia, but I feel like Florida trivia.
Yeah, I've lived here longer.
Okay. All
But,
right. Well,
I mean, maybe we'll try.
yeah, give her a big spin. Goat. So we're going to do men's and women's.
Goat.
Greatest of all time, wakeboarder.
Oh, dude,
Men's and
that's
women's.
brutal. That's brutal.
That's a, I mean,
That's brutal.
that's a tough one. Or it's easy. I have my answers. I mean, you probably heard them, but it sounds like you're thinking here.
I mean, I got to go with Parks.
Okay.
I think at the time, like Parks was just so ahead of everybody else that it's just like, dude, this is unfair.
Yeah.
And that's like who I watched growing up, and I was just like, dude, this guy's he is him.
He is him.
As the kids would say it these days. And then like lady wise, I gotta say Dallas.
That's my answer for ladies.
And the reason I say Dallas is JD and I bought a transfer box, which was stupid. But we built like a pro tour transfer box. Like the guys from Step Up built like 2-spec
Yeah.
a transfer box. And Dallas would come out like 3 times a week and I would pull her and she was relentless at like learning how to hit the transfer box. And I've never like of all the dudes that came out and hit that thing, and like obviously we were hitting it all the time, but like nobody took it as serious as Dallas. And I appreciated that because I was like, dude, this is probably what separates you from everyone else. Is
Yeah.
like if she attacked just any trick in her pass, like she did the transfer box, it's like no one has that kind of dedication. Like it was wild to me for someone to be like, no, I have to do backlip 90 out. Like I'm working on that all day. It's like no one's doing that. No one's like working on backlip 90 out. But that's what everyone was doing at the time. Everyone was doing backlip 90 out, 270, 90 out. Like, or switch 270. That's what everyone was doing on tour.
Yeah.
So she was like, I have to learn how to do that. And that's why Dallas is a good, in my opinion.
I love that answer. And that's a great little story. So yeah, you can go ahead and put that. Good answers there. Thanks to Liquid Force for that.
I wish we
LF
wouldn't have
Wheel
bought that transfer box though.
How much was it? You remember?
No, too much.
Why do you wish you didn't buy it?
I don't know. It sank.
It did?
Cost a lot to sink.
I mean,
I mean, we had it for some years, but then I think one of the hurricanes took it from the anchors.
took her
and
down.
Just like,
what lake was that on?
You
You remember?
Yeah, Gum Lake.
Okay.
JD had a house on Gum Lake before he moved to Lake Ariana, and the transfer box and like all the rails that you would see like in the Hyperlight movies, those were all in JD's old backyard. So like that big long weird rainbow that they had, and dude, at one point we had like a up gap to bank that was just like the sketchiest thing in the world. You had to take it down a whip.
Ooh,
Thing sucked. Like I hated it. I hit it. I probably only hit it like 5 times before I was like, dude, I'm not trying to like run into the 2x4 post.
yeah.
Like if you come up short or like compress on the up, like you're in danger zone.
Yeah.
And then we had a sick flat up there that we all had a lot of fun on, or up down, like
Okay.
just like a little A-frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was awesome. Thing was great.
Can't go wrong with just a classic A-frame.
Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, some of those. Was that rewritten? No, rewritten was the crazy double up.
Yeah, that's the intro. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the wildest time.
You were driving a boat for that, weren't you?
Yeah, I drove JD's boat.
Okay.
Everyone's screaming at each other on the walkie-talkie.
Run through that right now, because I'm just like I'll put the clip in of that, because that is, to this day, I think I've talked about it before, but
Dude, it was chaos. It was like controlled chaos. I will give it to Rusty though. Rusty was hitting like the steepest double ups because he was getting the end of the double up boat. So like Andrew's X-Star was like driving. I think it was Andrew's boat at the time, because Andrew lived like 10 doors down from JD growing up, or when we were on Ariana. And so like obviously you have like the double up boat, and then I don't remember the order, but it was like Chris O, Murray, Jimmy, Ruck, Grubb was hitting double ups on the wake skate.
Yep.
And like I don't think Grubb fell the whole time, which is wild.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I couldn't imagine hitting a double up on a wake skate.
With all that pressure too, dude. Like,
Yeah, like also like the helicopter was like it's like you have 9 to 12 or like whatever, and like that helicopter driver was so his name was probably Nigel. I think it was Nigel, and he like landed in JD's backyard and like buzzed the houses leaving.
I think Rusty was saying that something like
Dude,
that.
it was
Dude.
like, it was like, yo, are you allowed to drive this or fly this? Like,
did you just figure this out right now?
You are coming dangerously close to like trees and houses. But yeah, this dude drove the helicopter insane all day. But it was like, yeah, you had like a time limit. And like, I remember BT driving Grubby's boat. Like, I remember this vividly for some reason, and being like, you're behind. You're too far up. You're behind. You're too far up. Because like, everyone's like in a line.
Yeah.
Or everyone's like trying to draw this straight line with boats, and there's people ride faster and slower, but Rusty was getting the brutal like peaked up like second roller from the double up boat. And like Rusty was still like, I mean, he was doing like cab fives off of it, but it's like no one else would even made it through that. Like they were like washed up, peaked, scary double ups, and Rusty was like powering through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, JD got so mad at me for like driving back. I was like hauling ass, like probably going like way too fast.
With like towing him?
Yeah.
Oh.
He was like behind the boat because like everyone would like hurry up and like turn around and like get back to the starting point because like you're on like a time limit.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, JD's like always upset with how you drive.
Oh, he's that guy.
I mean,
JD's that guy.
He can flirt with that.
He's walking the line.
Yeah, he walks the line.
Okay.
Meanwhile, he's like, driving the boat like this.
Okay. Okay.
No, like I remember like hurrying up, getting back. And JD was like, why are you going so fast? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like you're not on the other end of the walkie-talkie. Like everyone's like, hurry up. So it's just like,
hammer down,
bud,
baby.
hammer down. Like we're going 35. Or like however fast the boat would go at that point. Like that's how fast I was going.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it was a weighted 230, so it's like we couldn't have been going that fast. Like 34.
Yeah.
Whatever. Going through like the rest of the, just like the turbulent wash of like 10 boats.
The whole lake's got to be shot to shit. I mean,
like 10 boats driving side by side. Like you're going through like just like the washing machine of boats, wakes. And I'm like, oh, you're good enough. You can deal with it.
yeah. Hang on, bud.
Yeah,
Come on. You're a pro.
Yeah, you're a water baby. Deal with it. But yeah, that was like honestly, that was like one of the craziest mornings.
So how is that? You said everybody's got walkie-talkies. So there's like, 15 walkie-talkies then between everybody
Yeah,
involved?
too many.
So is there one person like guiding everyone, being like, okay, everybody listen to me, this is what we're doing? Or is it?
Yeah, we did like some test runs where Murray was like guiding everyone through it, but then Murray was wakeboarding, so everyone was just like, dude, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because the guy that was coaching us through it is now wakeboarding.
Yeah, he doesn't have his BB talking.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, we probably did like Dude, we probably did like 15 or 20 takes at that.
Wow.
Like there was a lot. And it, also too, I remember there being like, all right, do like a glide this time. Or like do like your hardest trick this time. And it was just like, dude, like 10 dudes gonna do their hardest trick. And all of them are gonna land it. And dude, surprisingly enough, they all did. Like I can't think of anyone falling.
Throughout that entire thing?
Pretty much throughout that entire thing.
Wow.
And like Chris O was doing like wrap heel sevens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jimmy did switch heel 9. At least cab 7.
Yeah.
We had JD was doing switch heel 7s. And like JD never fell. Like I was driving the boat. Like
Pressure makes diamonds, I guess.
yeah,
That's
like,
nuts. I feel like
it would take someone to convince me that one of them fell.
Okay.
Like I can't remember any of them.
I mean, it'd be
falling.
pretty obvious. I mean, a boat would have to stop. It would totally.
Yeah, like
It'd stick out.
and like that whole intro. I mean, it's been a long time since I watched it, but there's multiple clips of them like going over that line. You know, the helicopter starting at boat 1, moving all the way down, and yeah, I don't think any of them fell.
That's sick.
It was wild, dude. I mean, it was like one of the craziest mornings of wakeboarding that I had ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the craziest mornings of wakeboarding. Also, like JD and I's neighbor at the time was just like this old guy. Might have been named Nigel too. But dude, I mean, because everyone brought their boats like the night before. Maybe a couple brought them the morning of. But it's just like on Lake Ariana, there's like 14 boats in our backyard. All of a sudden, everyone's like, no one had that.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's like, well, who are these kids? Dang wakeboarders.
Speaking of JD, I mean, he's got his hands in some wild moments in wakeboarding.
Yeah.
The other one I think of is when he's jumping over. I don't even know what you would call that in Orlando.
The Lake Eola fountain.
It's fountain, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
fountain for people who are listening is not. It's not a fountain. It's a fucking building. Like it's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It's like it's huge. But anyways,
It's pretty big. I don't
JD's
think I
done
could
some
throw.
crazy shit.
I don't think I could throw a football over it.
Oh no, I don't. I mean, I guess I don't know.
Maybe I don't know. It seems small when you're standing on the shore, but when you're up like next to it,
Well, you see the size of the kicker you went off. It's like okay, well that's
Yeah.
that's a big
again, the boys from Step Up built that. Ryan and Kevin.
That's step up. That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably like one of the first kicker to landers in wakeboarding.
Yeah. Trying to think. I mean, what was that? 2004. That was way back, wasn't it? 2006. I don't remember what year it was, but it was early.
It was probably like 6.
Okay. I'll put that photo in too. I think I had before, but that's just needs a little bit more justice. That was crazy. Speaking of
it was
Jade,
wild. Stunt Junkies coming through for that.
yeah.
That was like the Discovery Channel Stunt Junkies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
I didn't live with him at that time, so I didn't have to drive the boat. Murray had to deal with that one.
Yeah. I would not want to drive the boat for that.
Dude, no chance.
No.
No chance.
Yeah.
Like you're moving. Like I bet he hit that going 30 plus.
Had to have.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of JD, he's got a Patreon question. So if you guys are interested in seeing who the guests are early, make sure to join that Patreon. It really helps out. Keep the podcast going. You can see who the guests are early and submit some questions. And we got JD on there, and JD's wondering, just describe the Polk County crew vibes.
Oh man, how do you describe it? I mean, for me, it was like, I don't want to discredit the later part of my life, like with my wife and daughter, but like it was like some of the best times of my life. Like growing up, because I moved out there, like probably just turned 21. Not even. I went to JD's Red Bull party for his 21st birthday. Downtown somewhere. But I couldn't drink because I wasn't 21 yet. So it was like, I guess it was then.
That's when it was starting.
Yeah. But like, Grassman and Jeff House, like they had like the Club 863, they had that whole thing locked down, with Zane. And, we'd ride over there. And then on Ariana, we had myself, JD, Sean Perry lived with us at the time. Or let me rephrase that. I lived with JD and Sean Perry until Sean Perry moved out. And then everyone after that lived with JD and I. But we all lived with JD. Like, JD was the biggest sponsor of everyone. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we used to have a thing called JD Money. You had either, it was us and then JD had money. We'll call it that way.
Okay.
But then, you know, like Spencer Norris sleeping on the couch for like 4 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And then Andrew lived, you know, we used to like, he used to just come over. I mean, obviously we'd either be at one, mostly at JD's house, because Andrew lived like across the lake. So like he had lakefront, but it wasn't the same vibe because there was a road in between. So like you had to like walk across the road. Andrew's boat was, you know, so he was lakefront.
Yeah.
But, you know, just like ping pong every day. I don't know. The vibes were just, it was awesome. Dude.
All the time?
Yeah, dude. Just like sitting on the roof drinking Four Lokos.
I was going to ask, when did Four Lokos come into play here? And how big of an influence has Four Loko been on your life?
Dude, horrible influence, to be honest.
I forgot who asked that. I think it was maybe Rob. Somebody asked that. Run through the Four Lokos. How did they inspire your life?
It was Spencer's fault.
Maybe it was Spencer then.
Because Spence would be like, I mean, yeah, Four Lokos are like $2 for 3, you know, or like whatever.
That
like,
shouldn't be legal.
Like whatever crazy thing at the gas station you see is like 3 for $5. And it's like, Spence is like, that's what we're getting. And then we would just like sit on the roof and drink Four Lokos. And dude, it was just like terrible.
What was your favorite flavor? You remember?
No, I mean, I was partial to like the watermelon.
Okay.
They also had like a candy apple flavor back in the day before they took out the energy drink, the energy side of it. Once they took out the energy side of it, I was like, dude, for that reason, I'm out. And I graduated on to Captain Morgan and Mountain Dew, which isn't any better either. But yeah, I mean, dude, we were just like, we'd ride all day, play ping pong in between, and then after the last set, it's like right up to the gas station on the recumbent bike, or like JD had one of those bikes that was like 2 people could like sit down, like where you're like laying back. Couldn't start. It's like the hardest bike to start out on. But yeah, we just like ride to the gas station, grab a bunch of Four Lokos, and then we'd go sit on the roof or go out in the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we were like so far removed from like Orlando.
What lake was this on?
Ariana.
Okay.
So it's like, you know, nowadays it's probably like an hour and a half away with traffic, but back then it was like 45 minutes, an hour.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just like vibing. A lot of vibes.
You ever had a sidewalk slammer? It's half beer, half Four Loko.
Nah.
Yeah. People in college used to drink
good?
those. I never had one. It didn't sound good, so I was not. The Four Loko thing, I was never part of that. Because they was post removing caffeine or the energy drink.
Yeah.
So it was just,
so
I was
like,
just like, I don't see the point.
Yeah, like Spence is the one that like brought Four Lokos upon us. Because he's like, dude, this is what we do in Seattle. We climb trees and drink Four Lokos. And it's like, well, hey, I'm not climbing a tree. Also, like,
Go on the rooftop.
but like Seattle trees are different than Florida trees. Like,
Yeah.
they have like actual trees.
We had twiggy things.
That's what I
down
mean.
here.
It's like, dude, no one's climbing any of these trees.
Yeah.
So we just climb the roof. Or like across the street, there was like, it was probably private property. But there wasn't a house anywhere close. So, but they had like a nice like swing, and we'd all just like walk across the street.
A lot of vibes.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
A lot of vibes.
Yeah.
So let's talk rail jams, because you've done a lot of rail jams. You've had your hand in a lot of
Way too many.
winch pulls on some step up production stuff, and Dano says that
Yeah, I bet Dano does say something.
Dano says that he thinks more people have seen you wakeboard in person than anybody else, just solely because of all your rail jam appearances. And he wants you to elaborate on how the Rail Jam tour influenced your life to where it is now. So you mentioned you did a lot of rail jams.
Yeah, I mean, we did the boat show circuit for I don't know, it seems like a lifetime.
Why was that something that was why'd you do so many of them? I mean, was it just get a little money, help out?
Yeah, I was trying to stay afloat.
Yeah.
Trying to I wasn't really committed to because so at the time Ryan and Kevin also had bars downtown. So that was always going to be the kiss of death for me. Just with Ryan and Kevin and I's relationship, it was they were like, yo, you can't do this shit forever. And this is your easiest avenue. And we're basically giving you a runway to it. So once you're done doing the rail jam stuff, your home's at the bar. And that sucked to hear at the time. I hated that. So I was like, dude, I'll just do these rail jams till I can't walk anymore. And so we did, I don't know, Dana was there for most of it.
I was going to say probably almost all of them.
Yeah, especially during the winter. You know what I mean? Dana was not announcing the tour. Yeah, I mean, dude, it was probably 4 years. 4 years of boat shows. And that's set up Monday, Tuesday. The pools fill Wednesday. Boat show starts Thursday. Then you're doing 5 shows.
A day?
Oh, yeah, 30-minute shows a day. Maybe that was more so on the weekends, but
I'm sure Saturday's loaded. Friday, Saturday.
Oh,
loaded,
yeah. Yeah, and it's I love the weekend shows because all the pros would be there. So they'd have to ride too.
So it's more fun. I mean,
it's more fun, and it's I didn't have to do it as much, because those guys were there. So I was cool.
Yeah.
I'll take off this show. The morning show, it's yo, Watson, that's you, bud. They're here to see you. They ain't here to see me. That type of thing. Because all week I'm doing 3 shows. Granted, during the week the boat show starts later, so it'd be opens at 3. So we're doing a show at 4, 5:37. We'll call it. And they're 15-minute shows, and you hear Dano say Zazu that many times. Splash Zone Zazu. But yeah, so it's for 10 days we're at the Chicago Boat Show. Then, you tear down. Then you're at the Detroit Boat Show for 10 days. And then you tear down and you're at the Milwaukee Boat Show for 10 days. And then you tear down and...
So the Milwaukee Boat Show. Was it 2000? What year was it? You were on the news.
Yeah, I did some live news.
Yeah, how was that? How was that segment?
Didn't go well. Went terrible.
Run through that. I'll put the clip in because it is on YouTube.
Yeah, you don't need
and
to.
I will be putting that.
You know what?
A little bit of false start, I think, on the...
What is today?
On the offense.
14th? That happened on February 16th.
Wow, so...
Today's the 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in 2 days is the anniversary.
You celebrate it every year?
Dude, ever since Park stopped retweeting it, I kind of gave it up. But
I'm gonna bring that back, dude.
Yeah, Parks shared it a couple times to his social media. I was just
God damn it.
Why is this happening to me? So Sean Perry's the one that found that clip.
At the Milwaukee Boat Show, and it's more than just boats here this morning. It's also wakeboarding, and we'll talk to a world champion wakeboarder coming up in a live report. He's going to do it really well. You watch when we come back. You're watching. Hi, Lyra.
Oh, that was worth it.
Watching one of those news bloopers go wrong.
Okay.
Or
America's Funniest Home Video.
Yeah,
type thing.
live news bloopers.
Yeah.
And it's a 30-minute video. You know what I mean? It's got 30 million views on YouTube, and I'm somewhere stuck in the middle. And Perry's obviously, at that time he had just left WWA and started at Wakeboard Mag. I think he was the editor. So he clipped it, snipped it, whatever he did. or gave it to like the powers that be.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, you just blew me up. And this is like 5 years removed from that.
Okay.
So I'm like thinking, no one's ever going to see this clip.
Because you remember when it happened, for sure, in the moment.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and like live news is tough in that situation because it's like, you know, the dude was like, go. Oh, hold on. Go. And like, I was just like, dude, I've done this 1,000 times. Like, I'm just going to power through the start. Like, I know it's going to suck. Because Caravello, who was the winch driver at the time, like just totally burned me, you know, because he's watching like the live news guy, and so am I. So he's like, go, and then he's like, go. And I was like, dude, like, let's make sure that he says go, you know, before we like go into it. And this is something I've done like 1,000 times. Like I've done an indie tantrum off a kicker on that setup probably 1,000 times at that point. And yeah, I just didn't make it off the start block. I tried to power through and it went terribly.
Well, it looked like, I mean, gas winches are not, you know, perfect, but like you said, you've done it 1,000 times. So like you could manhandle it.
Yeah.
If need be, to get in the water.
Hindsight, I should have just let go and gone on to the next, you know, like wait for the next live.
Yeah,
tease.
be like, hey, let's run it back next time.
Yeah, we'll do it again. But like, dude, that clip's brutal.
I'm sorry, dude. That clip is one of the best wakeboard clips
Dude, like
I've seen.
when they panned the news or the weather lady and she just like can't keep a straight face. I'm like,
She's trying to talk through.
dude, I had like a Chad Sharp helmet throw. Though.
Oh yeah, you were mad.
No, I almost made it to the winch driver with that helmet.
It went
And
out, it went out a shot. Yeah,
He's like 140 feet away. Like I almost made it.
You're mad.
I would have given Chad a run for his money with a helmet throw at that point.
Okay, so yeah, that is a great clip.
I never did live news ever again after that.
The live news thing is tough, right? Because
I made like some other cronies do it. I don't want to say cronies because they weren't cronies, but some dudes that traveled with us. I was like,
that's you.
That's you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw names out because I don't want to. I said cronies now, so I can't say that. But if you want to find, I'm sure there are clips out there if you want to find it. But there's another brutal one out there that I hope someone finds.
Well, I got a guy that I used to ride with in Michigan, and he has a gnarly slam. I don't think it was live news, but it was on one of the same like big bloopered things. And
Will you say his name?
Yeah, Derek Pontoon. It was a bad slam.
On news.
I don't know if it was on news, but it's on one of those like viral
It's like
collection of clips. Like it's got millions.
It was like a news segment.
It might have been, yeah.
It might have been like a teaser for like a live thing.
It was for something.
Yeah.
And it was bad.
Dude, live news is brutal. So also, I want it to be known, and I don't want to throw Ruck under the bus like this, but the guy that was doing the interview wanted to start in a one-person kayak, sitting in the pool with Ruck, talking about wakeboarding, and then they like clip to me. Thank God they didn't, because I would have fallen in front of them. But he wanted to sit in a kayak with Ruck.
In the same pool that you're going through?
In the same pool that I was going through.
Oh.
But Ruck was like, I'm not doing that. And I was like, dude, Ruck, come on. And like, granted, it's like 4 a.m. Because like
It's the early morning news.
Yeah, it's like it's like 6 a.m. news that we're going into this. And it was just like, dude, the water's like, I mean, you can see in the video, I'm wearing like a full wetsuit. The water's like, you know, probably had like a sheen of ice over it. You know, it's like straight out of the fire hydrant from outside. Like it's 40 degrees.
Yeah.
It sucked. I mean, I went through a lot of boat shows never getting wet. Like I would land, get to the end, flip out. Like without, you know, maybe like from my knees down. Wet. But like I had done this so many times. It was like, and it was a show. And like everyone was there to see the show and it was cool. But like a lot of people would get wet if they were too close. Like, cause I was like, I ain't landing in this. Like you're getting wet. I'm not.
You didn't even need a wetsuit at that point.
I saw a lot of people fly out of that pool too. Like a lot of people. Dowdy fell out of that pool.
Hit us with some dimensions, because you built it, you put it together, you took it down. I mean,
yeah.
Paint a picture for people's heads of what this setup's looking like.
So the start pool is 50 feet long. and then you know, the rail or the start of the
A little
kicker.
bit closer.
The
There you go.
start of the kicker is 10 feet in, so now you got 40 feet. And then the trailer itself was like 25 feet, 26 feet maybe. And then depending on, so the trailer could hold 2 pools. It had a 25 by 50 landing pool, and it also had a 30 by 60 landing pool. So depending on the boost size, like maybe you got 10 more feet. And like we would push the landing pool, like maybe sometime, like if we knew like there was some good guys coming, we'd push the landing pool back like 3 or 4 feet from the end of the trailer. Cause it's like, A, like the speed that you're going, and B, these are professionals.
Yeah.
We hope most of the time. Like no one's going to land in the middle of the trailer and the end pool. Like they should clear that.
When they're smart enough to go, if I have the handle in my hand, the winch is pulling, I'm going to get to the water.
You're going to get to the water. So like we would cheat the landing pool out to give you like, you know, like 5 feet in that arena is a lot.
Yeah.
So we would do that. But yeah, like at best case, that was mostly with the 50-foot pool. But if we had the 60, we'd cheat it maybe a foot or two. So like, yeah, but granted, off the kicker, you're landing halfway down the pool. So you got like 30 feet to stop. You know, we had a 100-foot pool as well. It was a 50 by 100 that showed up at some place like NASCAR, because we were doing NASCAR for a while, which was insane. Like those are the ones that I was like, yo, we're doing this. And then then the A team shows up, like Grubby's showing up, JD, Phil even did a couple. But yeah, so like 2 years in a row, I think it was 2. We had like all the Pepsi races at
That's
NASCAR, which was like the best time ever. Like we were just going there to party, because like you're there and they like, you know, when you're there all week setting up, they give you every pass. You know, we had pit passes to like 13 Pepsi stops. It's like, yeah, sign me up. And it was amazing. Like the NASCAR races that we done were amazing. Like we did Fontana a bunch in California. Fontana, we actually did like a gnarly one. We had I'm trying to think of like how to even describe this piece of crap that we had. It was like a car hauler that we had welded I didn't weld it. Kevin welded it. But like it was like a 30-foot start pool on top of like a semi-trailer basically. And we had a kicker coming out of the roof of a semi-trailer pretty much over the bus onto a lander into the 100-foot pool. And like JD did it a bunch. I did it a handful of times. Phil did it. But I was like the guinea pig, because it was like, oh, this is what you do. I got roped into like,
You're the expert here.
Yeah, this is all you. And like your normal go-to is like do a bat wing, because like that's getting you the most kick off the top of the kicker and like giving you the farthest shot. And like for whatever dumb reason, like I just straight aired it, like just to get over it the first time. This is like before there was no crowds, and like I knuckled it so bad and didn't even touch the lander. Like I went straight to my back from like, I don't know, it was like 3 sheets of 4x8. So 24 feet of like down that I just like completely missed and just went straight to my back, knocked the wind out of me so bad. And I only did it 2 times after that, because like JD right after that bat winged it, and I was like, that's obviously the move. Like, yeah. I don't know why I didn't do that. Like, oh, because you're the professional, you do this all the time. But yeah, we also did a kicker over that lander. We had also done on Wall Street downtown.
Is this when you jumped the bus for
Yeah.
whatever? Okay, I was going to talk about that. So
yeah, and it like that whole situation from NASCAR stemmed from that bus jump. And like,
gotcha.
oh, that bus jump sucked.
Run through the bus jump, because this is, 2009, Orlando. It's like a big party, though, isn't it? Like, there's something going on.
Yeah, it's like Surf Expo.
Surf Expo, okay. So it's attached to that.
Which I hope they bring Surf Expo back. Like, I feel bad for the new dudes now. Like, I mean, not that I was ever, like, really a part of, I had, like, 2008 where I got Rookie of the Year, but, like, dude, like, Rider of the Year type stuff and
Wake Awards.
Wake Awards in general. Like, I hope, like, the industry, I guess that's what it is. The whole industry as a whole, like, I'm sure they still do Surf Expo, but, like, the wake side of it's not there. So, like, I hope one day that they navigate a way to bring that back.
Totally agree. Yeah.
It needs to be done. Like, I hope they can figure it out. I don't know what it is that stops it. I'm obviously it's money.
Yeah.
But I hope they figure out how to make that happen again.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But yeah, so that bus jump was supposed to be me, Dean Smith, and there was somebody else. It might have been Scotty Mackey. Anyway, we set it up at this dude Tolus's house not the bus, but like the gap, with just like flats in between.
Okay.
So it's like if you fall in the middle, like you're okay. But the winch never worked.
I was going to ask about the winch situation, because I have an electric winch, and it's just amazing. It's beautiful. I've used gas winches, though.
Yeah, they suck.
2 different gas winches.
I mean, generally they suck. Like we got that. We got a winch that we built. Like Kevin built a winch that was like pretty good. Like at least it went fast.
Yeah.
Like it went enough, and it got to the point we set that whole rig up, and like the kicker at that time had like a adjustable pitch. So like it had like a, like a boat crank down type thing that like you could adjust.
That's
the pitch.
sick.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone wants it, let me know. I know where it's at. But yeah, so we had that kicker, and the winch, I got to like the very top like twice, but I let go multiple times because I was like, there's no way. Like I'm not making it. At the time it was like 55 feet, which in the grand scheme of it is not that far.
Yeah.
But when you got a 30-foot start pool and you got a 55-foot gap, math is math. You know what I mean? Like you got to be.
Dude, it's just hairy, man. When you
you got to be moving.
Yeah.
And you got to also, you got to have a lot of trust in who's driving. Because it's just like when you're going, like the driver just has to like blindly go. Like there's no like, when someone's falling on a wakeboard behind the boat, you can like chop or like turn into them. There's none of that. Like it's go.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, if I'm the idiot still holding on and you chop it on me, like now I'm in the middle of like whatever's in between start to finish. Like we got to just.
It's all or nothing. That's it.
Right. Like I'm okay if you pull me across it on my stomach. Like I just got to get across. But it never worked out in practice. I never did it once in practice. So it was like Wall Street was the only time I ever did it. That night. I did it 3 times. I did 2 bat wings and then my dumbass did a backside off axis 3. Which I felt was like kind of the same as a bat wing. So I'm like, dude, I'm going to like jump off of it. It's not like, it's kind of like a quote unquote front flip where you're like going off the front.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last hit I did was a backside off axis 3 and hit the lander, and I did fly out of the pool that time. Because I was just like, dude, I'm going.
I'm hauling right now, bud.
Like we're moving. But yeah, that was like a Surf Expo party.
How popular were these rail jams? Because you said boat shows, NASCAR, Surf Expo. Was it always pretty poppin'?
To the riders, horribly unpopular. To the fans, they loved it.
Yeah.
They loved it. There would like be kids in the way of like getting wet. And it's like winter boat shows. They're getting wet and they have to go outside and it's like 0.
Yeah.
But like kids were all about it. Like in family, like, I mean, they would set up bleachers, you know, right in front of like the start and end pool, sometimes on both sides, and they'd be full for like almost every show. Like maybe the weekday ones were a little bit slower,
But there's really just not that many people at a boat show on a Wednesday night. Like,
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But I mean, on the weekends, there was 300, if I had to guess, 300 people watching.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people watching. And like Dano did it. I mean, credit to Dano. Because like Dano was half of the show. Dano, you know, the noise of the North.
Yeah.
Bringing people in, you know, screaming just like, dude, I mean, for me, dude, you just like have to listen to the same playlist, the same jokes, you know, the same intros. You know, and he would like, sometimes he'd like spice it up where he'd like pop out from underneath the trailer. He'd like introduce himself. And like everyone would be like, Dana, why are you being like such a douche? But it's like at that point, you know, you're doing 50 shows a boat show and it's like something's got to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and like that was like, I mean, I thought it was hilarious, the first boat show. But like by the 25th, it's like, you know,
Where's my headphones,
right,
bud?
same song and dance, you know, but then, you know, we got to do some like, oh, it's going to sound terrible, but we got to do some fairs that were like awesome. Like we were in Edmonton, Canada for like a 7-day country music festival. It was wild.
I was going to say any wild stories, but it seems like we're getting a good one.
There was like a casino right across the street. So we all, like everyone would just like end up at the casino. And it was like at the summertime where it was like, it'd only get dark for like 3 hours a night in Edmonton.
So you're way
Maybe
up
like
there.
4.
Way up there, bud.
Yeah, it's like way up there. It was like, you know, it'd be like midnight and it's still like kind of light out.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. But then there'd be like country acts. Yeah, I mean the rail jams like took us a lot of places. Like we did it all over. I mean, I need Alaska and then I've hit all 50. You know what I mean? I mean,
seriously?
We didn't do Hawaii rail jams, but like we drove all over the place in that bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone wants that bus, let me know. We don't.
Cal's got it all, dog.
Yeah, well, we'll get rid of it for a steal.
You get a hell of a deal on the bus and the ramp.
Yeah, you'll need a
Adjustable
wrecker
ramp.
to get it. It don't work no more, but it does. It does.
Okay.
It needs new shocks. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that bus drove everywhere.
What's the financials of this looking like? Because this is like kind of how you're making your way, paying your bills and all that stuff. Are you getting paid to do these events as like the event organizer or manager or whatever of these things? Or
No, I mean Step Up was paying me, and then Hyperlight would pay me.
okay,
That was like how I was getting money from Hyperlight, basically. Like being at these boat shows. So like while I was at these boat shows doing shows, like I'm also at like whatever dealer during the week. You know, like the pros only come in. I say pro, like the A team guys only come in on the weekends.
yeah, Friday night, Saturday, leave Sunday morning. Yeah,
Right. Like who's there all week? You know, so like I'd sit in the booth and sling boards, you know. Obviously the later years it was super easy because I got to know the dealers and, you know, I was there. And at the same time too, like I still had a really good relationship with Mastercraft. So like, meanwhile at the time, like I didn't have a boat from Mastercraft, but I was like still super involved. Like I would go to the Mastercraft dealer meetings and stuff like that with the dealer. So it was also easy to sell boats. And that's like what I did all week.
okay,
You know?
yeah,
So I was like, you know, I was doing anything and everything, whether Hyperlight knew it Hyperlight, I guess at the time knew it, but like whether Mastercraft knew that or not, like I was doing anything and everything to like help those brands, whether they cared about me or not. Like my dad always told me, it was like, if you're not willing to work, if you're not willing to do more than what you're paid for, don't ever be shocked that people aren't going to pay you for more than you do. So I always just took that as like, just give everything your all, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah.
And then luckily through Step Up, it did work out for me, like with the bar situation, you know, and it's not like the most strategic route or smartest route, but it's like, for me, it was like, I can just like get into this industry. You know, it sucks being a bar back, especially like when all your friends are still wakeboarders. It's like, I'm not a bar back anymore. They're still wakeboarding.
Yeah.
So it's like I had to figure out something to do for me, like long term.
Yeah. I want to get into that in a little bit because like that's a very I'm super interested in the transition of that part of your life.
Yeah.
Before we get there, let's talk a little bit of sponsorship. So you're talking Hyperlight, talking Mastercraft. What about Gator boards? You ever run Gator boards?
Yeah.
How's that?
It's probably the beginning of the end
Yeah.
for me.
Because you had a board with them, didn't you? Pretty sure.
We tried.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. They were gone before it happened. But yeah, we tried. Like I had a couple prototypes.
Okay.
It sucked. Like that sucked for me in terms of like not being loyal to Hyperlight. Because like Hyperlight had given, like I'd been on the Legion team for like a lot of years.
Yeah, this goes back to Nebraska.
Yeah, right. And it was like, dude, Gator's gonna give me this chance for like peanuts. And I took it like where I probably, I don't know.
What was the decision about? Like, why did you make that decision?
Because it was just like, it was money.
Hyperlight
like,
wasn't giving you anything?
No, I mean, unless I worked, like, unless I went to boat shows.
Yeah, that was the deal you had.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was just like, should I have done that? I mean, would I do it differently now? Yes. But at the time, it like extended me going to the bar.
Yeah.
Full time. You know what I mean? So like it's bittersweet, I guess. Like, because Gator wasn't around like another year. You know, like I'd be shocked if someone told me that I was on Gator for a year.
Yeah, it was a bang bang kind of.
Yeah, it was like pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. It is what it is. Like,
well, so you said you would do something differently. I mean, I'm curious what.
I mean,
at that point, would you just
like I could have just stayed on? I could have stayed getting flow from Hyperlight and made the same amount of money going to boat shows every winter.
Yeah.
You know, and being like the circus monkey of Hyperlight. You know, but at the same time, like I was like overdoing boat shows.
They're exhausting, dude. Yeah.
I was like, it sucks. Like, it's cool. Like, you meet some really amazing people. And, like, there's people now that I've met at boat shows that come to Orlando for, like, Surf Expo or whatever, and they seek me out because of that relationship that I made with them. But they suck.
Yeah.
Like,
well, if you're doing, like, I worked at a dealership. I did a couple of them.
Yeah.
And, like, it's a long weekend, but, like, you do one a year. Okay, whatever. Like, it's a long weekend, long week.
Yeah.
But if you're going to boat show after boat show after boat show after boat show.
Yeah, for like 10 days at a time. And like, you know, luckily I was with Dano, a lot of them, like, and we'd go out and party and, you know, do the whole.
There's fun times.
Yeah, do the fun time stuff of it. But like the bulk of it is like, dude, you're standing on your feet all day. You know, the Detroit boat show, I love going to the Detroit boat show. I'd go again. Like, you get on the people mover, you go through like, the town, you know, Joe Louis Arena was there. Like, dude, we saw Foo Fighters there. Like, we saw, like, we did stuff when we were on the road, you know, so I don't want to make it sound like we just went to boat shows and then we went to bed. Like, that wasn't how it went. But, like, being at the boat show is like, when you do it for 4 years in a row and it's 10 days at a time from first one starts, you know, early December, realistically, and then you go into early March, and you're just on the road from those amount of days. Because, like, we just lived from bus, like, in the bus. So it was, like, me, Chris Glenn, and Ryan Caravella. And Dano, some of the time, like, he'd fly, like, because his family's in Chicago, so he'd fly in and out from a lot of those northern ones. He'd be like, yeah, I'm just going to go home for 5 days. Like, miss setup teardown. Dano was the talent at the time.
I was going to say, Dano's the talent, dude.
Yeah. So,
got to look pretty, have a nice voice, man.
right. But yeah, we did a few boat shows that were just awful.
How so?
Just like Roanoke, West Virginia. And we set up a pool in a basement. And the roof was, you couldn't hit the kicker, and you were cheating death to hit the A-frame. Like, the roof was like super
head
close.
chopper.
Yeah, like you're going to hit your head on the ceiling type stuff. It's like there was a couple of those. Like, Roanoke was
The worst.
just like that, and Ogden, Utah were like the two worst. Like, not necessarily like Ogden was not a boat show, but we did an event there in a rodeo arena. Just like the worst time ever. We drove from Orlando to Ogden, stopped at my mom's house in Nebraska for like on the way there just for like dinner, got back on the road, set up in a rodeo arena. Well, water and dirt don't mix, especially cow shit or horse shit, whatever it was. So like folding the pool up, there's just mud everywhere. Like,
Sounds awful.
it's one of those places that we don't like discuss anymore. Like, me and the guys, like, we're just like, it's like the city unsaid. And Dano flew in and out of that one, and that pissed me off so much
Because he's not in the shit with you.
No, and then we tore down and drove right back to Orlando.
Yeah.
It was just like, we stopped at my mom's house overnight. Like, we stayed at my mom's house because I was like, I don't even care when we get home, or if we even do. Like, I might just stay here. Like, it was so
I'm
bad.
done, guys.
Yeah, it was like one of the worst experiences of my life. But yeah, that setup of pool, ramp, pool gave me some of the best times and some of the very worst times.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like such an array of experiences on the road. And you meet characters, man.
I can only imagine.
Like, you meet gnarly people and like awesome people too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all comes full circle at the end.
But that segment of your life. So in the summers, are you riding just normally then?
Yeah.
Working a little bit. And then in the winters, you're doing the boat show thing. And that's like extending the wakeboard career of yours.
Right. So like during the summer, I was like working at the bars, like maybe like 1 or 2 nights a week. Like
a Saturday night or something?
Yeah,
or
I was like
Friday night?
Thursday night, Saturday night. And then at the time I was like driving in between Auburndale and downtown Orlando, like, so it's like pretty hectic drive at 4 a.m. After the bars close. By the time you get done cleaning, counting money, everything. Yeah, you got like an hour drive home. And then, then the boys are like waking up ready to go. It's like, well, I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
And that was like, that's what started like the whole, if my first wake jump didn't feel good, I would just like get back in the boat.
Just because it was 3 hours of sleep or whatever.
Yeah, I was just like, this is not going to go anywhere in a hurry.
You're going to blow a knee.
Right.
doing
Yeah,
something stupid.
I'll end up hurt.
Yeah.
Smart. Or just like incredibly upset.
Yeah, makes sense. So there's a Lions Wake edit. It's like what you call it, mini documentary is what I would say it is, and it's called The Pro That Never Was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about that title?
It's appropriate, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to like discredit anyone. Either.
No, and I don't mean it like that. I'm just curious.
Like at the time that we put that out, like I was super bitter about wakeboarding. Like I was mad that like I never got my opportunity. Obviously, like coming out in 2008 was like just like the worst time.
Yeah.
To be good at wakeboarding. But at the same sense, there was like dudes that made it that also came out in 2008. So like I was frustrated. We'll say that. Like I don't want to take any away from the guys that did make it in 2008.
Why do you think some of that is? at that time, like you said, it's not a
Dude, I wasn't as marketable
Yeah.
as those guys. I never put myself in an uncomfortable situation for me, if that makes sense. Like I never went like at this point that video had come out. Like I had filmed some videos like with Ronnie
yeah.
and like where Watson be like, dude, come to the house, ride. Never went. Chad, come to the house, come ride. I never went.
Why do you think that is?
I just was never okay with putting myself in an uncomfortable situation. Sucks. Like looking back on it now, it's like, dude, I could have done so many things differently in my life. Like in my wakeboarding life to like make myself more marketable. Cause like obviously everyone was around Watson. Like that whole Hiawassee posse was like, that's where everyone was, you know. I never went. Yeah, I didn't put myself in situations where
who knows the relationship forms,
Correct.
this, that, the other.
I mean, like towards the end, like when I was living with JD, like, I mean, there's obviously dudes coming out to video and take photos of JD, and like I get a ride, and that's how that whole situation always kind of works, you know. Like Rodrigo was coming out, and like Rodrigo, like I got a good amount of shots in the magazine because of Rodrigo or Thomas Gustafson or Bear had a couple, you know what I mean? Like, but it was like too late that all of that went down. Like early on, like I didn't put myself out there enough where other guys did.
Yeah.
I guess. So I don't know, that bummed me out. Looking back on that I didn't do enough. Like for me, like I feel like what I could do on a wakeboard was enough. What I was as a person wasn't enough in the sense of like keeping yourself alive in the sport. You know what I mean?
It's not that you weren't a nice person or you didn't get along with people. It was that.
No, I just was like, dude, I'm not doing anything uncomfy.
Yeah.
And like I'm still like that to a degree. You know, I've like worked myself out of that. But like socially, like I was just like, dude, I'll just like sit at home and play video games.
Yeah.
You know, or like ride where I'm comfortable riding. But I never like put myself out there like some of these other guys did. And like kudos to them. Like I'm not trying to discredit any of that ever. Like I just didn't put myself in a situation to succeed where other guys did.
Gotcha.
And like that's on me at the end of the day. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, whatever. Like I thought I was good at wakeboarding.
Hindsight is always 20/20, right?
Course,
You're always looking
of
back and you're
course.
like, well, could have done this, that, the other. So
Yeah, and it was super easy for me to be bitter back then. But then like you grow up a little bit and it's like, well, you start to like really understand how things work, and it's like, oh, you're kind of an idiot too. You know, like straight up, like I'm the first one to call, you know, I'll be accountable for my actions. Like I was an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't put myself in situations where people were like, yeah, this guy's it. You know.
So I got another question, or a Patreon question from Rob Corum, and you might have just answered it to a T, but there might be more to go on about this. And he's going, although it's not as severe right now, the water sports industry is in a similar financial situation as it was in 2008. What insight or advice would you pass on to up-and-coming riders that are in the same spot that you were back then? And I think obviously putting yourself out there,
yeah, I mean,
is a huge one.
There's like way more opportunity now too. Like YouTube's insane. Like I don't know about that world, but YouTube and like being like a quote unquote influencer, you know, I mean, there's like ways to make money from social media.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't a thing in 2008.
True.
Or maybe it was, but none of us were like either adapt to do that
No,
or
it
smart
wasn't.
enough to figure it out. Like, you know, at the end of the day, but like, I think the La Familia guys do a good job of like putting out edits. I mean, those are the guys that I see. I mean, I think Massey's incredible. I think Tyler's incredible. Like Luca's, I spent a little bit of time with Luca in northern Idaho or southern Idaho randomly. That was like wild. And just like watching that kid ride from the boat, I was like, dude, this is not the same. Like we don't walk the same life. And like I didn't wakeboard. I had been so far removed from it at that point that like I tried to get up on a foil. I couldn't even get up on a foil.
It's like a little tricky first couple times.
Yeah, granted I only tried 3 times before I was like, dude, I'm not doing this in the boat with everyone. Like I need to figure out a boat driver where I can just go out and figure this out by myself and not be embarrassed.
Yeah.
But again, same situation. It's like, dude, I feel like I'm wasting everybody else's time. So like, I'll just get in the boat. Like I don't need to do this. And I guess that's probably just like my wakeboarding career as a nutshell.
Okay.
Like I was like always like the step over dude. I was just like, no, I'm good. I'll just sit in the boat. Like I don't need to ride. You guys can ride. You know, like light's good. You guys ride.
Yeah. And nobody's gonna be pushing the boundaries for somebody else. They're not gonna be like, no, Kyle, you need to ride. Like,
yeah,
you need to do this, dude.
Right,
like,
right.
No one's
right.
gonna do that.
Right.
Really.
No one ever will.
Yeah.
Like it's their time. And I was just always like, yeah, you're right. Like I don't belong here. You know, like that's how I always felt, like on the inside. And stupid enough, I never just like did it. Cause it's like, yeah, I can do all the same things you're doing. You know, like I can go out and do the same method, you know, in good light or bad. Like I'll do it in bad though. Like I'm okay to do it in bad light. You guys need the good light.
Yeah.
I get it.
That's a whole personality shift though, because I do feel as though I'm like somewhat like that as well, where I'd rather have someone tell me like, hey, you need to get on the water right now, get a shot for this magazine, blah, 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 rather than, hey man, cameras ready. Like, I'm going to get on the water now. I'm going to go do some this, that, or the other. Like, let's make this happen.
Right.
It takes some people are just like that, right? Some people are outgoing where they're just like, I'm going to do this. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And other people aren't.
Yeah,
but then the people who aren't realize that that's what you need to do. And it's like, it's tough.
Yeah. It's weird to like walk into someone else's realm. Like, let's just say, even though it's my realm too, but like somebody that's got like status.
Yeah.
And like say that I deserve to be here. Like nowadays, if you walk into my realm and like want to come tit for tat with me, like you better come at me. Like, cause I'm going to be the same guy that had status. Like I'll step over you nowadays. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy what like years do to you in life. Cause like, I'm always going to stick up for myself now. Like I've got this and this to prove. Here it is.
I'm confident in that.
Right. I'm confident now in my older life where when I was younger, I was just like, yeah, I don't need to be a thorn in anyone's side, which like maybe you should be.
Kind of find the right times to do it too. You know what I mean? So it's, that's a great, I was very interested on that whole situation. You mentioned you were selling boats with Mastercraft, you know, were you on the Mastercraft team? Were you on Team Mastercraft? What was that situation like?
No.
Okay.
No, I was never on.
Just helping him out.
Yeah.
You had a good relationship with Matt.
Yeah. McDevitt did awesome. And then like mostly just like the home dealership was just like, dude, well, you know, we got you. Yeah. Like we got your back. And like I'm trying to think of what year that was. It was before the first Pickle Fork X-Star. So like what year was that? Like
we had a
2008 or 10.
No, it was before that, dude.
Was it?
Yeah, because we had a 2006 X2 that was Pickle Fork, and that was modeled after the X-Star. So it had to be before 2006.
Oh my god.
I could be totally wrong on that, but I know that.
Anyway, like my mom had bought an X2 from that dealership that was like the first year that the X-Star wasn't that Pro Star 190 or like whatever that hole was.
Yeah.
Like, so the X2 was like the new old Pro Star, I guess, or old X-Star.
Yeah.
My mom had bought one of those from the dealership. And then from then on out, after that boat, like we kept that boat and I got that X-Star, the X-Star with like the graffiti on it. Like it looked like it
Loved
had graffiti.
That boat, dude.
Yeah.
That thing's
so like
sick.
that was the first year I got an X-Star from the dealership.
Okay.
Whatever year that was.
That's got to be 09, something like that. 08 maybe? I don't know. Maybe
no, because I like still lived at home.
07?
I still lived in Nebraska.
I don't know then.
I think it was 07. actually,
Okay.
now that you say that. No. Yeah, we'll call it 07. Yeah, so that was like the first year I got one. And then because I was like going home, I was like going back to Nebraska in between like winters at that point.
Okay.
And it wasn't until like probably 09 that I was like here permanently.
It doesn't. I mean, it's not a huge deal. What years?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, whatever.
But we.
So like I
figured it out.
got 3 out of that dealership.
Okay.
Because I was like going home for the summers. They were like, you know, here's your dealer boat. You know, I at that time, because I was also the tour was going on, so like I wasn't home a whole lot. Like I was at that time I was riding the tour. So I'd come home or I'd come here. I'd come to Orlando, and you know I was like maybe putting 50 hours on the boat. 60, and most of that is like idle speed, like partying. You know, like with my high school friends, like because like any serious wakeboarding I did at Woodcliff. Like, because Ronnie was like, we were all out there, and like when you were at Woodcliff, it was like, yo, you're
here to
like,
wakeboard.
Yeah, and you're riding. Like back home at Beaver Lake was like a party lake. Like if it was windy, that lake sucked. Like you weren't riding it unless you were riding super early. It sucked. Like it was blown out, or you'd ride this tree line that maybe it was like a 3-trick pass. So it was like, unless you're riding first thing in the morning, Beaver was terrible. And then there was like a ton of rules there. Like the first year that boat came out, Sean Keeler doctored the pink slip so it could even be on that lake because it was too long. Anything over 23 feet was not allowed. But like we got the pink slip and then we doctored it.
Fudged it a little bit.
We fudged it. And he only fudged it because he also wanted an X-Star.
Oh,
so he was like, dude,
it's like standard.
He was like, if you can get yours on, I can get mine on. And then he bought an X-Star right after that.
Okay.
Once he figured out that mine could get on, he was like, oh yeah.
Nobody's really saying anything.
Yeah, I can just and like, dude, it's a pretty small lake community. Like there's like 3,000 people that grew up on it, and there was one cop. So it was like the cop's the one that's measuring your boat before you put it on, before you get like your lake sticker. So it was like the cop already had plenty of run-ins with us, you know, prior to like a boat being 3 inches too long. So yeah, he was cool about it, and maybe he knew that the pink slip was doctored, and maybe he didn't. At the end of the day, it didn't matter.
Yeah,
because the boat was on the lake,
and it was idling, baby.
And people were still upset with us.
For what?
Oh, dude, I mean, we obviously had tower speakers then, but there was like pontoons with like wet sounds. Like there was pontoons on my lake that were like inappropriate.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, why do you have that? Like, why do you have a $5,000 pontoon with a $50,000 stereo system in it? Like, you know, there's like
priorities, baby.
Stripper poles and like, you know, like
really?
Yeah, my lake was like a party lake. Like we had a party cove and there was like a gauntlet, and that's what people did. So like me having tower speakers on the boat was like the least offensive thing.
At least I'm out here doing something, dude. Like,
yeah, correct. And then there was a couple people, like me and Ben Bezos actually, remember like, oh, you might be too. So there was like this company that made inflatable sliders. So there was like a company that made like an inflatable flat rail, and like we towed it out and we anchored it, and yeah, the cop, like we pulled it back in one night, and the cop was waiting for us at my house. Just like, you can't have that in the lake. Like that's obviously a hazard. And like, this is a popular lake. Like there's houses surrounding the whole lake. Everyone's got a boat. And like, we just like put it in front of this lady's house. Like, I don't know. It seemed like, you know, this looks good. No, she was not happy with us. And yeah, Bryce, the cop, was waiting for me when we got home. He was like, I don't want to see that thing again. Like,
fair enough.
Yeah, all right. It was
how did it slide though? I mean, inflatable flat bar, was it okay?
Yeah, I mean,
moving and grooving with it.
Yeah,
but
like
it was
you know,
fun to hit. I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good intro to us. I don't even know how Ben got it or why, but yeah, we tried it at the house, and it was just like a up, flat up, or up, flat down. I mean, the flat was like super long.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just like a flat bar, but when you landed on it, you definitely like sank.
Felt it, yeah.
Yeah. But it was fun.
Yeah.
You couldn't get hurt on it. Like that was like the nice thing. And like this is before, I mean, at the time growing up in Nebraska, like you weren't hitting rails. Like that was the rail.
Yeah.
So that was cool. It was cool to like learn on
I mean,
that.
it shakes it up too. I mean, if you're riding the wake all day, every single day, like I'd love to have something to grind and slide. I mean, that's just makes it more fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my take. But all right, so I think we get into a segment. It's called Deserve Some Love, presented by Driftline. So what is Driftline? They're an outerwear brand that makes wetsuit-lined board shorts. I've been rocking them at OWC the other day. They keep my little guys happy, nice and warm.
Especially
so I've
in
been,
this colder weather.
Especially, it's for me, Florida.
What's the water temp right now?
I don't know, dude. It's probably 50, 60 at OW.
Yeah, it's probably
Maybe
chilly.
more than that. I don't know.
It's probably chilly.
It was chilly. So yeah, I love those things. Deserve some love. This you can go with this however you want, because you can do deserve some love now or when you were kind of in the thick of it. But I'm looking for a rider or even just an industry person that didn't get the amount of love that
I mean,
they should.
There's a bunch of riders.
And it doesn't have to be just one. It can be
be
anyone.
There's a bunch of dudes that stand out to me, like Brian Hutton. Like Hutton was good. Like, I mean, I get that, like, not everyone's style is for everyone, but, like, Hutton was good at wakeboarding.
Yeah.
Like, really good. Hutton's one. Dude, Robbie Carter, to be honest. Like, I loved growing up with Robbie and, like, watching Robbie ride. Everything just seemed, like, effortless to Robbie. Like,
smooth operator kind of guy.
like everything was just like no worries, man.
Yeah.
Like everything was easy. Or maybe he just like made it seem easy. I mean, Nick Jones was another dude that rode really well. Like could do every trick switch regular. Like didn't matter. Like Nick was good. Anthony Hollick was good. Like those are the dudes I rode in like my younger days that were just like, I mean, I thought we were like setting the world on fire, but we weren't, but like with Nick though, like Nick pushed me hard. Cause like Nick was always like trick for trick wise, like Nick was always so good. Like Nick had tricks that most people didn't. Like I remember like Nick could do like big worms. I was like, what? So like,
that's several people. I love that.
Yeah,
I'm sure that anybody at any point could go on for several more people. Where
there's like heaps of dudes out there that didn't get the love that they deserved.
Yeah,
like Rhett Watley was another dude. Like Rhett was, I mean, he might have made it. I think he rode for C-Dub, like C-Dub A team. But, like, now he's, like, a successful DJ. So it's like, yeah, you're killing it now. daily beats or daily grind or I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
I love that.
Daily bread.
Daily bread?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, obviously I grew up riding against Rhett in junior Met. And it was just like, dude, that was, like, not a dude you wanted to see in your heat. Mm-hmm. Granted, this is like a time where junior men had like 60 dudes in it, like 60 little kids trying to qualify for finals. Like Mitch Langfield, another dude that, I mean, Mitch had some injuries. So like, but Mitch was like on his way, to like getting like to making it, quote unquote.
Be big time. Yeah.
Yeah. But Mitch just had like, I mean, he always had knee problems, but there was like a final in junior men's that we had in Portland that like Mitch went off. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like that was like probably at the height of Mitch's like pre-injury, right? I think at that point he'd already done a knee. It's like, dude, we're in junior med.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
If you're gonna have a pro career, you're gonna have a couple more of those.
Right. And I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mitch Langfield was so good.
Yeah.
And dude, honestly, at that time, like, cause Rathy was at the dude. I remember Rathy coming in junior men, and it was like his only contest he ever rode junior men, because he was like a trick skier before wakeboarding.
Oh yeah.
Dude, he did like a switch Pete in junior men, which was like what? Like I was maybe doing a Pete in finals if I made it.
You gotta pull it out.
Right.
Yeah.
But like Rathy won that junior men. It was in Dallas, Fort Worth. Before it was at Texas Mastercraft, it was at like some other lake that had like a crazy hill to it. But yeah, it was like Rathy's like first and last junior men contest, and he just like came out and smoked everyone. It was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pro. Like this is weak. Like I don't know what you guys are doing down here, but it, like that final was like me and Langfield. Like I think Jimmy LaRinch was in it and Adam Arrington. Like there was dudes in it.
Yeah.
Like these are the guys. And Rathy came in and dusted all of us.
Okay, that was great. Okay, so that was Deserve Some Love presented by Driftline. We got another Patreon question from Travis Moy. And he's wondering, have you ever had your truck burned to bits while towing your boat? Yeah, that was the question. And the answer, I think, is yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
So what happened?
There was a tournament in Lake of the Ozarks. And, you know, like, whatever, load the boat up. And at this time, like, a lot of my high school friends, it's like, yeah, we'll just make it like a weekend out of it. You know, we go down and ride this tournament. Them at the same time, like, rent a house. You know, they would go do, like, their party thing. And, yeah, we were, like, driving down. I had, like, a 97 Yukon that had a bunch of, like, work done to it, like, a week before. Like, I had TV. One of the stereo shops that did, like, some of the boat work in some of my boats, like, stereo system, they like put TVs in and put some in the headrest, whatever. I don't know if it was necessarily part of it, but yeah, we're like driving down I-95. Corey Bradley's with us at that time. Yeah, I think he's like in Ronnie's truck because Ronnie's got his boat. I have mine. Yeah, whatever. We're like 2 hours into the drive. Truck starts to like overheat. We're watching Anchorman. Smoke's like billowing through the dash, and it's like, all right, well, obviously you pull over. Well, at that time, like the boat trailers, like if the tongue was pushed in, you couldn't get the boat off.
Is this what year? What boat is this? What year?
This is my X2.
2006-ish?
Yeah, 2000, or it might have been, I think it was a 04 X2.
Okay. Probably the
maybe
same
a
tongue
05.
design, but worst tongue design ever.
Yeah, like if it compressed,
You're fucked. Yeah.
you're fucked.
Yeah.
And so like my truck is on fire, like all of it. And like I've got my girlfriend at the time and like two of her friends. So like they're like, oh, our bags. So like I open up obviously the hatch. It's like my wakeboard was sitting on, I had like a sub box designed to like have my wakeboard sit on top of it. Like as gay as that sounds, or stupid as that sounds. So my wakeboard's like sitting up there, and this is like the leather era, the first brown with the leather top, like Ruck's. I think it was like Ruck's pretty much first era with Hyperlight, with like the white and brown boots. So I'm like getting these girls' luggage out. It's like, whatever. I'll get your stuff out while my truck's on fire. Sorry about that. And then my wakeboard got left in there. The fire department showed up and like, there was like, in the pump trucks, there's like a chemical in there. I think it's, whatever it was, it's like slimy. And they got it all over the boat with like the pump truck, and it's like, it's gross. But yeah, so they put my truck out thankfully. Too late. Like,
She gone.
She gone. So I called up one of my other friends from high school. He came in, like, got it on a flatbed. And then we hooked up the boat to one of the other guys' truck that was driving down. We went down there. And it was like a local contest, I guess you would say, that pros are showing up at because there's, like, prize money. There's, like, a decent amount of prize money at this. But yeah, JD was there. Rusty was there. There was a couple other dudes, but like on the way down, like I called Ben, and I'm like, Ben Sims at the time was like the Hyperlight rep for my territory. We were going into Jeremy Baker's territory, which like became a good friend with Jeremy Baker over the years. But it was like, hey, Ben was like, I got this rider. His board like burnt down in a truck, and like we got my board out of the truck after the truck had been put out. So like my binding was like had been on fire. The whole board had been on fire at some point. Like
Kind of sick.
The whole tail end of it was like the leather part of it was like peeled up.
Okay.
So yeah, we got it out. Like I brought it, but Ben hit up Jeremy and was like, hey, if you have an Era, I think I was probably riding the 137 at that time, or like maybe just like a pair of boots. Like the board might be salvageable, but we might need a pair of boots.
Yeah.
If you have a pair, like, can you give it to him? You know, whatever. Long story short, like I ended up riding that board through the whole contest with the boots. Like I was just like, dude, we're just gonna run it, like whatever. And then, yeah, that's like, I guess that was probably when I met like Rob and JD and like a lot of those guys for the first time.
Okay.
Because this was like pretty early on. Like I think I was probably right out of high school. Like I probably had went home for that. I'd moved to Florida, went home for that summer, somewhere towards like the middle to late summertime, I guess. So it's probably in August or so. Yeah, so like we drove to the Ozarks from my house growing up was only like 4.5, 5 hours. So it's like, whatever, we'll just all load up and go there. Like the whole Wakeboard Nebraska crew, I think it was one of Ronnie's contests that he was like part of. I don't know if it was through one of the dealerships there. It's been too long. Yeah. I've slept since then, but Ronnie had something to do with it because I remember announcing some stuff. Travis might have drove that contest.
Well, he also asked about the bass in your car. So,
oh, dude, I used to have the woofers, dude. The woofers.
You're that guy.
Oh yeah, I was like degenerate.
Just the windows.
Dude, I was a dickhead. Like I had so many tickets in Auburndale and Winter Haven for my subs.
Really, you get tickets like for noise?
Oh
violation
yeah. Oh yeah, I probably 10. Call it. We'll call it an even 10. For having too much bass.
How's the hearing these days?
Oh, it's terrible. It's only gotten worse. You go from too much bass to bar life, and yeah, I had. Travis is probably talking about my O2 Yukon. That
he might have been. I don't know.
The first time I put subs in it, spider webbed the back windshield. I had to get a whole new back window like day one. Yeah, and two 15-inch downfires from the JL Dub 3s.
You're a big audio guy then.
Used to be. Like growing up, the dealership, the boat dealership was right next to like a sound audio type place.
Yeah.
And they did some of my boats because you got to remember, like, a lot of the boats I had were dealer boats. So they were like pimping these boats out for resale, even though I was using them for a year. Like they're like, yeah, well, you know, they had like some sort of partnership with the JL dealer.
Yeah.
So like, you know, there was like TVs in the glove box thing. That's like, I never used it, but it was there.
Yeah.
You know, because like they were also using my boat as like a sales pitch for other boats to like come in and like, this is like a demo boat. Come check out what we can do. You know, I constantly had people in my backyard, like my mom's backyard growing up. Like coming onto the boat,
Testing the boat,
yeah,
test driving,
testing, yeah, like all of that. So like that was like part of it. But yeah, like the JL dealership just like loaded me out always. And yeah, some of it was just like too much.
A little too much.
Way too much.
Oh man. Okay. So we're talking riding. Do you still ride at all?
No. Zero.
That was a mumbled no.
0%.
Zero.
Yeah, I haven't wakeboarded since 2018.
I was gonna say last time 2018, 6 years ago.
September 28th.
Okay, so you know the date.
Yeah, it was my birthday.
So what was that? I mean, two-part question. Why'd you stop riding that day? And I guess why that day? Like, why haven't you ridden since? Because I got a setup for you if you want to hit the cable.
I still have a setup.
Okay.
I have two.
So that's not why.
Yeah, I have two. I still have two boards and like full setups. When I moved out from JD's house, like it was when JD was expecting his daughter, and it was just like, it's time to go. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, yo, it's life. You know what I mean? And like, I moved to Orlando, and I was still wakeboarding. Like that's when I kind of like started to branch out and start riding with other people outside of just riding with JD. But yeah, I was just like, it's time to just like leave. Like I got to leave this house. And like Andrew at that point had left. I think Grassman had actually left to Dallas at that point.
Probably.
And then Jeff and his wife now, you know, they were like doing, you know, so everyone was just like growing up.
Kind of breaking off.
Breaking off, but like, just like wakeboarding wasn't the main priority for any of us but JD. Like JD was still in it.
Yeah.
And all of us were like kind of on the outs. So it was just like time to go. And then, yeah, the last time I rode was one of JD's prototypes. It was a pink board. It was when he shaped his relapse. I think it was called Relapse.
Yep.
The Relapse. Yeah, it was the prototype of that. And prior to that, I hadn't ridden in like probably 6 or 8 months.
Oh, so you were rusty.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
I did a roll of blind though. I did tail grab roll of blind.
You grabbed it too?
Yeah, I think that was like, I got Spence knew, because I talked to Spence about doing this, and he was like, he sent me that photo or sent me that video right away, and he was like, remember this? And I was just like, yeah, dude. Like, it was like the last good time of my life on a wakeboard.
That's a good specification at the end there on a wakeboard.
But I've wake surfed like a really good amount.
Really?
Yeah, one of my wife's best friends lives on Lake Brantley. They have a 230. And we're like weekend warriors now. We go out on the weekends and I wake surf.
Okay. You busting out some 360s or shoves?
Yeah.
What's that look like?
They're like blown away that I like end on the deck. Like when I'm done, I just like ride on
coast in and
get on.
I mean, dude, that's the showstopper for the wake surfers.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh my god,
you didn't get wet. That's so cool.
Yeah. But yeah, my wife's best friend is just like, David, you need to learn how to do that so I don't have to turn around and come get you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just like a weekend warrior now.
So, what was your setup when you did ride? I mean, it doesn't have to be the very last setup, but like we're talking stance angles, board size, rope length.
Yeah, I rode
speed.
Being in the winch game was crazy because you could make your rope to the length. Like I always had 1,000-foot spools of rope from like HO I had like one of the B lines. Do you remember the B line? It was like, for lack of a better term, like houndstooth. It was like black and yellow. It ended up being like shit rope. Like it was super stretchy, so It didn't last very long. But like I had 1,000 roll spool of that. That was good for winching because it didn't matter. But I had like 1,000-foot spool of straight line. And I had like 3 different ropes for 3 different boats. And I would just move the best handle of all time, which was, I don't even know what it was called, but if you like looked at it, if you like look at a screwdriver, like a Phillips head screwdriver, it like had that print to it. So it was like we had a yellow one and a blue one. I forget what it was called, but it was like that foam.
Yeah,
it was like a foam handle, but it was like my favorite handle of all time. Like I remember we found one with a wrap handle on it, and I was like, dude, we just hit like gold. We straight up bought it at like a Play It Again Sports. Like I bought it at a Play It Again Sports because I was like, dude, I have to have that.
That's it right there.
Yeah, it had like the T-bar on it and everything. And that was like, wrap tricks were starting to get big. Like, and I was starting to get into wrap back sevens and whatever. But, yeah. So behind the XR, I'd ride 85. And then behind the G, we would ride 82.5. We'd always ride like one in. So I just finally like made a 82.5 rope.
Yeah.
But behind the 230, it was like 87.5. But we were also riding like way faster.
Yeah. What speeds are you around?
Like the 230, we were riding like, I was riding like 26.
Jeez, bud.
Yeah, which seems like hauling ass now. Because behind Andrew's X-Star was slower. We were riding like 24.5. And then behind the G, like when the G came out, I was like, oh man, you can like go slow.
Yeah.
So we were riding like 23.5 behind the G23, which was awesome. But yeah, then I was just like riding the B side mostly.
What size?
142. Like I was riding a bigger board. And then I don't know, I've just like put boots on it.
Oh, same.
Like
You're not.
I mean, I would like look a little bit and was like, no, that looks good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was always all the way. Always rode all the way out until maybe one of the last B sides where it was like they changed the pattern up, maybe, and it felt really wide, like comparatively to the old one. So then I went one in, but it was always like I rode all the way out always until whatever year maybe they like got rid of the inside one and put it on the outside. Yeah. Like that screw pattern. I was like, dude. And like I watch all these kids now that are like skinny stance, and I'm like, dude, good on you boys. I don't know how you do it.
I don't know.
Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like fundamentally growing up playing basketball, it's like you need to be in an athletic stance, which is like not inside your shoulders.
Yeah.
It was always like shoulder width apart or more to like be ready for whatever. A defensive stance, we'll call it.
Yeah.
That ain't skinny.
Well, it's harder to knock you over when you got that wide stance. And that's kind of. But
that's how I felt.
I don't know. I mean, maybe with the bigger boards these days, you can kind of move it in a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Know.
They also ride like really long boards, or at least it looks like it.
At the cable, the boards are huge now, for sure. Like I'm on a 156. Which, I mean, I'm a big guy, though.
A 156?
Yeah, I'm a big guy, though. I mean, but dude.
It's like a snowboard.
It's just a boat.
Does that come up to your nose?
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
Yeah, so it's like a snowboard.
Yeah.
I'm just like, isn't that the rule of snowboarding?
Up
like,
to your nose. I think that's like
or like
standard.
to your chin.
Yeah.
Like your standard.
It might change now, though. I don't know. I ride what feels good, but yeah.
Do you ride one in? Or what's your stance?
So I'm like.
Are you skinny?
I'm like shoulder width, I would say. If I'm standing on top of the board, it's like maybe a little bit wider than shoulder width, but it's about shoulder width.
It looks pressy.
Yeah, it looks kind of skinny, I'd say, but I'm like a little bit directional.
Comparative to the.
If you put our boards next to each other, like.
Yeah, it's two different worlds.
Two different worlds.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't ride a lot of cable either. I mean, I did, like, not a lot.
Did you just not like it?
No, I mean, we would go to the Tampa cable every now and again. I mean, we go to OW, like, not a lot. We'd go to OW when we were running Indian line.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that's fun.
Who ain't doing that? If you're passing that up, you're an idiot.
Very true.
It's the craziest. That's one of the
It's a weird sensation.
It's wild, dude.
Yeah.
Like that second corner on the Indian line, like if you're not ready,
You're getting yeeted.
Like you're getting snapped off. The first time I ever rode the Indian line on the, like the second turn off the dock, I got smacked because I was like not expecting to be lifted up.
Yeah.
Like that, but it's just straight up.
Oh, it's picking you up, dude.
You're going.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't, I was like looking back, feeling the water, like I was like, yeah,
hanging out, dude.
Dude, I'm like Parks in 01, going
around
like,
the corner.
Don't. I'm not Parks. But yeah, I mean, once you figure it out, it's like, it just happens.
Yeah.
Like it just lifts you straight up.
Mm-hmm. It's fun.
And hopefully the rope don't come undone.
That's true. You'll land on shore.
You'll be on shore.
Okay. So, I mean, kind of wrapping it up. You don't ride. Do you still follow wakeboarding at all?
As far as Instagram will take me.
Okay.
Whatever's in the algorithm. And like, I'll seek it out sometimes. But like, I feel like there's like not like a great place to follow it anymore.
It is kind of Instagram. That's kind of
where you used to get on Alliance every day, see who put something out, or wakeboardmag.com and see who put what out. But like, now it's just like Instagram. So if it's convenient, I mean, there are days where, somebody would be like in a group chat, they'll be like, dude, this is insane. It's like, click on that. Now it's in my algorithm for a little bit.
Yeah.
I get super caught up on wakeboarding and then it fades. But
here and there, you're dabbling a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you said you watched the La Familia stuff a little bit, so like,
yeah, I do. I mean, I follow those boys on Instagram, obviously.
Yeah.
I think Massey's like incredible.
He is.
It's unbelievable to me, and like Tyler's amazing too. Like I know Massey from like the bar world. I mean, I've met Tyler a couple times, but I don't know, Matt, like watching Massey wakeboard is like, how do you ever explain that to somebody that knew wakeboarding, what it was, and then what did it, like
where he's taking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's wild.
So I was going to ask, who gets you stoked on wakeboarding right now? Massey obviously is one of them.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I think Massey's incredible. Dude, the time I was in Idaho with Luca, I was just like, yo, like the line tension that these kids have, or the line control that they have, being able to like change direction, that's wild.
And mixing grabs while they're doing all that shit too.
Yeah,
like,
that style of wakeboarding is not what I ever saw. Like, while I was in it, like I never did any like 3-2-1 stuff. Like that stuff was kind of unheard of towards the end. I mean, I guess like maybe a couple cable dudes were doing it. Like Daniel Grant was big into that. But yeah, no one was doing that behind the wake when I was wakeboarding. Like when I was in it heavy, or you'd watch someone get snapped off trying it.
Landed perfect 90 and just fucking.
Right. It wasn't like, it was like, oh, I should try this. And it's like, oh, should you? I don't know, man. Maybe we should take 25 off the rope and go 18 for you to try that. Like,
seriously though. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, watching like a lot of those dudes, like Nick Rappa to me is like, he kind of reminds me of like Dean. Like growing up watching Dean ride, doing like tricks that you shouldn't think would be done in the flats. He's doing them into the flats.
Okay.
It's like, whoa. Like, that's serious.
Yeah.
Like I respect that kind of riding.
It's
like,
beast, yeah.
Yeah, like you're going for it. Like no one needs to be doing backside sevens into, 15 feet out. Like that's how you get snapped.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like watching some of these dudes ride that are doing things that like you just thought were like no-nos. Like the whole going into the flat. I guess I would use the analogy of like one of my favorite sports clips of all time is like Peyton Manning rolling out right, throwing left, and he's like, you shouldn't do that, but once you get to a certain age, you just stop giving a shit. Like, I feel like that's what those kids are doing, but they're like young enough that they're like, yeah, I don't give a shit. Like, I can get snapped off.
Yeah.
Trying some of these things that push the boundaries. It's like, I don't know. I never thought some of those things were an option. Like, I never saw that.
Yeah.
So, like, watching kids be able to come up with some of these things, it's like, yo, because I mean, I wouldn't say that I pushed the sport much, but I don't know, there wasn't necessarily like trick by trick. Like, I felt comfortable doing every trick by trick that you could do on a wakeboard at that time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it wasn't, but 3-2-1s weren't part of that.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we were doing like toe side 5, rewind to 3. You know what I mean? Like, worst case is you slide out on your butt.
Yeah.
You know.
Those are some good names right there. I got an interesting one. What defines being a pro wakeboarder?
I have 2 answers for that.
All right.
The old me would have been like to get paid, to like make a living out of it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure there's some kids now that are making a living out of it. And there's still dudes making a living out of it. So like, that's one. I mean, if that's your profession, that's what you do for money, you're a professional wakeboarder.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there's heaps of kids out there nowadays that are so good, that are pushing the sport, that aren't getting paid a dime. And like, those kids to me are professionals too. I mean, sure, they don't have like the status and the bank account to show for it. But if you're pushing the sport, and that goes for any sport really.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like, think about how many snowboarders there are on this planet that are so good. Like Max
Van Helvoort?
Yeah. Like, that kid's insane on a snowboard. And like, maybe he gets paid. I've never met him. I don't know him, but like, watching some of his stuff where he like does edits both ways, it's like, yo, that dude's professional to me. Like, what makes him not a professional?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you can hang with the big boys, you're in.
I kind of like that. If you can hang with the big boys, you're in.
Yeah. Like, if you want to drop edits, whether you're getting paid or not, who cares? Like, no one, like, in my world now, like, no one's getting paid. Like, that's how I see it. I'm sure it's different. I'm sure it's I'm sure I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm okay to be wrong. But to me, it's like, looking at where the sport's at now to where it used to be, like, no one's showing up to tour stops. So like, now anybody with an Instagram following is a professional. Like, and if that's the case, then everyone's professional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, who's to say that they're not?
Yeah.
And
I'm
okay. I'm okay to call everyone a professional.
There's got to be a kind of a standard, though. Don't you think? Like
I think with social media now that there is no standard.
Yeah.
Like, where's the line?
I don't know. It's a good question.
If you can hang with the boys,
I like that.
You're just fine by me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's a bunch of cable kids, and like, for all I know, they're getting paid bukus of dollars. But I mean, I just scroll on Instagram, and these kids are doing like back tens, and it's like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're doing back tens, like, you're clearly,
you're at a high level of
you're at a high level. Like, you understand some serious fundamentals. Like, you understand, you've been through the ringer.
Put a lot of time on the water.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the whole 10,000 hours, right?
Yeah.
Like, you put 10,000 hours in, you're going to be good at it. And if you put your time in and you're good at it, you're a professional in my book.
I like it. I like that. Hang with the big boys. We got a couple from Spencer Norris before we wrap this up. And he's wondering 2 questions. One is, what was your main motivation for riding in your later years before you quit? So maybe didn't have any sponsors, but riding with, I don't know, JD or whatever. What was the motivation?
Dude, I wasn't ready to get passed up. Like, on the boat.
Like, trick-wise, skill-wise?
Yeah. I still had something to prove to me, probably. I ran out of the time of like, there was time to prove to myself that I can do it. And then there was like that window of that time to like having to move on to do something else was running out. So I was like, dude, I should try to get as good as I can. And then I just walked away. Like the day that my life went to a different direction, wakeboarding was over for me.
It was like that.
Yeah, it was like within a day.
Really?
Like it was like, yeah, I'll probably never wakeboard ever again. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I've been. Like since that day, I've probably wakeboarded 3 times. And one of them was like with my niece in between her legs. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I'll do that with my daughter too. Like, I'll do that. But like, I'll never do it. I'll probably never jump the wake again. Like I just don't see a realm in where that happens.
Yeah.
Where I'm like on a boat with people and I'm like, yeah, this seems like a good idea to me. Like, which is a wild thing to say.
Yeah. Cause it was such a big part of your life for so long.
Yeah. I still have like some bitterness towards like how it ended. Mm-hmm. Which like in time that goes away. But if I ever wakeboarded again, it would be to go back to why I started.
Which is?
Like just to be out there. Like not to do this trick, that trick, this, whatever. It would be like to carve around. Like reach down, feel the water. Look at your reflection. The things that you did when you were a kid.
When you weren't even thinking about it?
When none of it mattered. Like those, like just doing a butter slide.
Yeah,
on accident. You know what I mean? Because it was like, ooh, that's new. Like that feeling again would probably be the only reason why I ever wakeboard again. But like chasing, I don't know how to word it, like chasing that feeling of like the hurdles that you've like accomplished over your life. Like those hurdles would be like such a back to basics thing for me just to do it.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't care about jumping the wake. Like sure, it seems like it'd be awesome. But now I'm at the point in my life where it's like, I don't know. What if I case it? And then dig my nose in the trough. You know what I mean? Like, the last time I wakeboarded, I did a couple wake jumps. I did a roll to blind, and then I fell in a bat wing, and I was done.
Quick set.
Quick and super quick. It was like back to the house while JD was draining the weight. That's what it was.
See, yeah, and I get that. For me, like, I'll do,
and I might send you the video of it.
I'd love to see the video.
I have the video on my phone.
Because I can put that in, and it's, yeah, I don't know. For me, like, I don't know. I was never in a position you were, or any pro athletes were, and maybe that's kind of a blessing. But it's like, I'll always go out and do a switch frontside 360 indie, and I'll just smile after it because it just feels good. I'll do a nose press, front board, switch front board, back lip, like at the park. And I'll do that for the rest of my life. Like, I don't know. It's fun to me.
Yeah. And that's the part of wakeboarding that you love.
Yeah.
And like, you should hold on to that forever. I don't remember what it's like at this point, like being this far removed, and like, I don't remember what wakeboarding was to love it.
It'd take a lot to get back there too, probably.
Yeah. Like, what year? It's 2020. Like, I haven't been on the water in 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, in a capacity where there's that option's out there to like go do whatever, go.
Let's say you live on a lake, nice lake, got a boat out front. She's ready to go. Would you see yourself dabbling back in or no? You don't have to.
I would. But I wouldn't be at that point. I wouldn't be doing it for me. Like I would be doing it for my daughter.
And I think that's totally fine because I
Yeah.
feel like as you get older, you have different reasons for doing all this
For
different
sure.
shit, right?
For sure. So like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I live just right off Lake Conway now. Like I do walks all the time. Like I see these houses go up for sale. And I'm like, do I think about the glory days? Like obviously,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But I would be terrified of my wife driving a boat. Like I gotta be straight up about that.
So you need a little coaching, a little bit of
Like she ain't pulling me, tell you that. So like then it's like
then you got to get a crew or something.
now I gotta get some, like what, once a year when Spence is in town, or maybe I catch the boys on Conway out there, be like, hey, can you pull me for a set? Like,
yeah, it turns into a whole different thing then.
yeah, like those days are like, that's not gonna happen. But if I could get to the point where I move on to Lake Conway, like, would I get a boat? I would, but I wouldn't be doing that for me. I'd be secretly doing it for me, but I'd be like, I mean, growing up on the lake and like on a boat and like doing all those things was, I think, pivotal in my life of like quality time with your family, quality time with your friends. Like, and like I'm blessed and honored to be able to share some really awesome experiences on a boat.
Yeah.
With the people that I love the most. And it'd be hard to like not share that with my daughter. Now,
Because you know how good it is. You know how awesome
like
it is.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like even if like you don't even have to wakeboard. Like just being on the boat on a sunset cruise is, that's why people spend $500,000 on a boat sometimes these days to cruise.
Yeah.
And like I'm good with that. I mean, I'm gonna buy a pontoon first.
You buy okay.
Yeah,
Pontoon one.
Yeah, I'm buying a pontoon.
Yeah.
Because like that's my speed these days.
I feel like would you buy one of those like $200,000 pontoons, or are you jumping into like a $20,000 unit with like a 10 horsepower, 15 horsepower?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I would be like 35 HP.
Yeah.
Just two tunes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Not the tri-tune bullshit. Just
Yeah,
two
yeah,
tunes.
2 tunes. Like I ain't going above 10.
Yeah.
I'll probably put some AstroTurf down. Maybe redo some seats.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but no, my
Stripper pole.
no,
Life might not be enough.
not anymore. Those days are gone.
I think that's the perfect pontoon. Doesn't
Yeah,
need to be what it
yeah.
doesn't
Like
need
I'm
to
not trying to be fancy. I mean, if I had to buy a boat again, like that old 210 Aeronautique,
Yeah.
just like a cliff in front of you, like that would probably be what I would have to do.
Yeah.
Ride like a super aggressive 3-stage board so you could get some pop.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, my wakeboarding days will be probably stuck to the water. Like I don't think I'll ever do a single trick on a wakeboard ever again. And I'm cool with that.
Hey.
Yeah. I would just ride to ride.
You're at foil age now anyways, bud. You're
Dude, I'm terrible at it. I'm so bad at it.
you got to put time into it, man. Like it's
Yeah, but
it's tricky.
I'll never be in a situation where just like I'm around just me foiling.
Yeah.
Like,
You
I
get
gotta
the
go
e-foil,
through-
dude. Get the e-foil. Grassman works for Flightboard or some shit. Get
Yeah,
the
he
e-foil.
does. He's a rep for
He'll hook you up or
flight,
something.
but yeah, what for like 15 G's? I might as well just buy a pontoon. Party.
Fair enough. No one's
Bring some
partying,
bush
but-
lights.
Make some bush
On
lattes.
Lake Conway. Fit right in.
That's true. Okay. So we got one last question from Spencer Norris before we kind of wrap it up. He's wondering, who was your favorite filmer to work with?
Dude, what a dick. What a fucking asshole. Ask a question like that.
Right. I mean, you've probably worked with some other.
I mean, primarily just Ronnie.
Okay.
And it's like, what, I'm going to throw the father figure in my life
know,
under
right?
the fucking bus. Like, no, I mean, they both have like, Ronnie was a bigger fan than a better filmer. Like Ronnie was always like such a fan of wakeboarding that it was always like, it wasn't about what he got on film. It was like that you did it.
Yeah, let's make this happen.
Yeah, it was like, damn, dude. Like I don't remember. Maybe it was Global Warning. Would that have been Global Warning?
What year? I mean, I don't remember.
No idea.
Yeah.
I was riding the brown board. But I remember doing a heel 7 off the wake first try ever because the wake was juiced. And like it was the first time, like I had done a ton off the double up. And it was like, again, like you're with Watson, Jeff Weatherall was there. Darren was there. Lyman was there. So it's like there's a bunch of dudes, you know, like that I've looked up to for a long time on the boat. And I did a heel 7 off the wake. First one I'd ever even probably tried off the wake. It was that brown board. And Ronnie like went ape shit. And like I felt like he like kind of blew my spot up a little bit in front of like the boy, you know, in front of like Darren and Lyman. Like at that time, like those dudes that like, you know, they've obviously like done it and shit. And which is like super weird because I was doing like toe 9, switch toe 9 at that time. And I'd never done a heel 7 off the wake.
Really?
Yeah, I'd only done them off the
Because I was watching the up dog part, and you were spinning those toe 9s.
Was that in Mexico? Was that the one?
I don't know
in
where it
Mexico?
was. No, I think some of that was. I think a lot of that was Florida, but I could be wrong. I wasn't there for any of it, but yeah, you were spinning those toe 9s, switch toe 9s, like
yeah,
like it looked like you go 10, like you were spinning fast, and you had like a heel back 7 where you're like,
yeah,
where'd that speed come from?
I never was good at heel side, front side spins.
Yes,
like ever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and like I could do heel 7s off the double up, but off the wake it was just like I struggled with that for a long time. That was a hard trick for me, at least to get consistent for a long time. Even switch heel 7s were really hard for me, and I've never done a regular heel 9 or switch heel 9. Like I've done back 9s, but I've never done heel 9.
Interesting.
Heel side, front side 9. I've never done one.
You gotta hit the tramp.
And I've done it. No, shattered my wrist on a trampoline.
Your wrist?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Big time in 04.
So you're not a tramp guy then?
I was a big tramp guy.
Yeah.
And then I broke my wrist trying to dunk from the free throw line, and I didn't make it to the hoop.
So it wasn't really because of the trampoline as much as
dude. As far as I'm concerned, that was a tramp's fault.
I guess if the tramp wasn't there,
yeah, dude, I messed it up bad.
Oh yeah,
I had pins put in both ways, and
bad break then.
Yeah, I broke my scaphoid,
I don't know
and
what that is,
it's like the smallest bone in your body.
but it's probably a bad one to break. It sounds like.
Yeah, it doesn't get any blood, so I have like a calcium bone in there now. I don't have like any movement.
That's how far you can bend your right.
That's as far as it goes back. So like learning to play basketball again after that was like a nightmare. Like I had to relearn how to shoot
Because you're right-handed. I'm guessing.
Yeah. And then it doesn't go like left and right at all.
Just because that one little one is like the reason for that.
Probably not. Like I was still wakeboarding
with it broken.
Yeah, I had like a cast on, and like at Ronnie's contest, like I won a few contests with a broken wrist.
It's kind of badass.
I would put like a dish glove on and then like duct tape, and that's how I was riding. And then I went in for like a checkup, and the doctor was like, "It's worse. Like your tendons are messed up."
Well, because it's getting pulled on, I'm sure is bad.
Yeah. So then they put me in like a elbow cast, and then these two fingers and my thumb, so I couldn't wakeboard. Then I was just like done, and then that turned like the whole process into like a year.
Jeez.
Had a couple surgeries, put some pins in. The first time we had pins put in, when I went in for my checkup and they took the cast off, the pins fell out of my hand because my body had rejected the metal.
Oh, interesting.
Which my mom immediately was like, "We're going to someone new. Like that shouldn't happen." And like, granted, like my body just doesn't deal with metal. Like when I went to my next doctor, they put like an L-shaped pin in, so it like had to stay in place. and then calcium like screws basically. So it's just like those never came out.
Yeah.
And they basically auto fuse my wrist so that it just like doesn't move.
Wow.
And then, yeah.
So this wrist thing is, I mean, not just your typical skateboard and fall down, break my wrist, cast for a little bit.
It probably would have been, but I just kept wakeboarding
Yeah.
with it. And mess it all up even more.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of ligament damage, and it just made like probably what would have been like not that bad of a break. When we first went to the doctor's office, we were like I busted my face open, obviously, like jumping from the free throw line on a trampoline. So it was like we had like a little trampoline, like one of the mini ones.
Yeah.
And you start, and it's like nighttime. The grass is dewy. Your feet are wet. And it's like you jump up, take one hop, and then it's like go.
Yeah.
Well, my feet just like slipped right out from underneath me. So I went straight up and straight down. And yeah.
Okay.
Shattered my wrist.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah. But like I was good on a trampoline.
And you would like do a lot of wakeboarding stuff on a trampoline?
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I mean. I would do a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like one trick that I never got to do was like a double whirly. Do you remember Parks back in the day used to do double whirlies?
Yeah.
Like I could do it on a tramp, but I was too scared to ever try it on the water.
I mean,
that seems like you get snapped off.
that just seems like you're going to get knocked out cold.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know of anyone else to ever even try it or do it.
I don't know.
I'm sure there's people out
Sure,
there.
some cats down there. But yeah.
I always wanted to try that, but I could do it on the trampoline. Too scared to do it on the water.
Fair enough. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anyone you want to thank before we wrap this up here?
No, I mean, I would think Ronnie. Like, I don't know. Without Ronnie, I would have never even gotten into the position I'm in. Like, he always pushed me.
Yeah. Life
You know,
changing.
obviously my mom. Like, my mom was my fucking rock. You know, like, especially after my dad passed away, like, my mom was... obviously, my mom cared about me and wanted me to, like, push myself and do everything. And she came along for the ride, but when we were home, I don't know how much of it was like, hey, I have to go to work, so, like, go do whatever. Don't die, please. Because we were also, like, super into riding four-wheelers and dirt bikes. But it was, like, kind of had a free reign. You know, my sister would kind of, like, tag along with us. My mom was like, I have to go to work. We have to afford all this. Please don't be an idiot, you know, type life. But, like, she also gave us the reins of, like, you know, she was also, like, held us super accountable. You know, I was always grounded for, like, doing some dumb shit. But, you know, she, like, gave us the reins. And, yeah, without her, I mean, even today, you know, I lean on my mom heavily. You know, but, you know, again, it's like when your dad passes away at a young age, like, who do you look to?
Yeah.
You know, like, and, you know, maybe I would have had some different advice throughout the day, you know, like growing up. That would have been useful back then, but not saying my mom's advice was bad, but your mom's always kind of like, do whatever makes you feel comfortable, like do whatever makes you feel happy type stuff, instead of being like, quit being a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Like, go do it, you know?
Kind of need like the good cop, bad cop with two parents.
100%. 100%. And like, I mean, obviously I missed out on it, but you kind of learn that growing up, that it's like, this is what I should be doing. And like, if you just have to hold yourself accountable and do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even knowing what you should do, like having a parent be like, shoo you off in that direction is huge. But not to say my mom didn't, but my mom was just like a very big advocate of follow it. But I mean, be comfy. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you want to do. Go do it. And that was like the push, you know?
Yeah.
And there wasn't like a lot of, and I also didn't like indulge in a lot of it to my mom either. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I mean, besides like my mom and Ronnie, like
Those
the boy,
are two
yeah,
big
like
ones.
those are like obviously the two big ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, like JD sponsored me for like 4 years.
JD Bucks.
Yeah, you know, big money. You got JD money. But like Spence too, like, you know, Spence and I had a rough start, which is not a lot of people know that. Like, cause I was filming with Ronnie at the time, and then Spence was coming around like the Mount Dora days, and I always like felt weird being filmed for like two different parts. You know, even like if it was just like Spence put out like a couple edits called like Kyle Quickly. But yeah, I was always just like, yeah, you don't have to film. Like, I'm filming with Ronnie, you don't have to film. Like, stupid.
Yeah.
Super stupid. Like, idiot.
You're here, bud. Press record.
Yeah, like, and, you know, whatever. Like, I mean, I never did one, but I was trying, like, toe tens back then a lot. And, like, the hard way backside nines, like, the off-act, like, the not wrapped, but, like, kind of like the indie glide backside nine, you know, style backside nines. And I was trying those back in the day. And I'd be like, nah, Spence, don't worry about it. Like, you don't have to film. Fucking idiot.
Why would you say that, bud?
I don't know. He filmed anyway. Like, he filmed a lot.
There you go.
Yeah, he filmed a lot of it. And he's got a lot of, like, you know, stuff in. Spence has a lot of footage of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, if you could
He's
see
got some
him-
hard drives.
He's got hard drives. He's got some scary hard drives too. But yeah, he's got some hard drives of a lot.
Love it.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, I think we did the damn thing. This was a great chat.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it
No, I
for
appreciate
coming on,
that.
man. It was a lot of fun. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, throw some comments. Hit that Patreon if you guys are interested in supporting the podcast. It means a ton. We got Kyle on there.
Yeah, I'm on.
Yeah, thanks.
on.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. See you guys next time.